Be quiet. The ancestor of the Mo family slapped the coffee table around him again. When the crowd was quiet, he said, "You don't have to doubt the truth of this matter. The mountain people who participated in the competition saw it with their own eyes, and he also took pictures of the man killing my Mo family. Actually, some people dare to break ground on Taisue's head." Hearing this, all the people in Mo's family suddenly changed their faces. If the ancestors were not so determined, they couldn't believe that someone would dare to kill Mo's children in Jiangnan. The people who made this move clearly didn't pay attention to their Mo family at all. "Qin Bing, come out and tell them what you saw at that time." At this time, the ancestor of the Mo family said in a deep voice, and a middle-aged man came out along the back hall. After giving a respectful salute to the people of the Mo family in the assembly hall, he told the whole story of the Yanawithing race that day. "Too reckless. We don't pay attention to our Mo family at all. Revenge. We Mo family must take revenge. Otherwise, people in this world will treat our Mo family as a soft persimmon that can be kneaded at will. Yes, we must severely punish this person. Let the world know that our Mo family is by no means a weak and deceiving generation." After listening to Qin Bing's story, all of the Mo family's faces showed a sense of killing, shouting, "Show them what the man looks like." Looking at the reaction of all the people in the Mo family, the ancestor nodded with satisfaction and looked at Qin Bing in a deep voice. Hearing this, Qin Bing respectfully takes out his mobile phone from his pocket, unlocks it, calls out the photo album, and delivers it to Mo's ancestor. On the screen, it is a half-body photo of Yi Tian, and perfectly captures the scene that Yi Tian disdains to smile when facing the threat of the Mo family. "Find out the tusk and kill him. Laozu, I'll go out in person. No matter he escapes to the ends of the earth, he will come back with his dog's head." Looking at the mobile phone screen, Yi Tian's face is full of disdain. The anger of Mo's family is just like being poured with boiling oil. "Mr. Mo, what I know and the photos have been taken out. The elixir you promised me?" At this time, Qin Bing listened to the murderous voices around him. After a shiver, he gave a deep gift to the Mo family's ancestor, and then he said with a flattering smile, "Haha, do you really want to ask me for the elixir?" Hearing Qin Bing's words, Mo's ancestors suddenly looked at him with a smile. Click. When Qin Bing heard this, he felt a bad feeling in his heart. However, he forced a smile on his face and said, Didn't you promise me before?" "Yes?" The ancestor of the Mo family gave Qin Bing a cold glance and said in a cold voice, "I promise you, but I didn't say whether I will give it to you when you are alive or after you die. My son of Mo family was intercepted and killed by others. You stood by coldly and dared to come to me to ask for something afterwards. Do you think my Mo family is a good family?" Qin Bing gaped and looked at Mo's ancestor in disbelief. He had heard that the people of the Mo family were unreasonable, but he didn't expect that they would turn over their faces like books. "Yes, my Mo family died. You just sit back and ignore me. Now you dare to come to my Mo family to ask for something. Who gave you the courage? When the Mo family was killed, you didn't help. Now you come to my Mo family to ask for treasures. Are you daydreaming?" At this time, the Mo family also sneered at Qin Bing and looked at him like a fool. "You Mo family, so shameless." After a long time, Qin Bing screamed, "Insult Mo family, go to die." But before the echo of his words came down, a prefectural official sitting in his seat slapped his chair, suddenly rose up and punched Qin Bing in the chest. Poof! With one blow, Qin Bing immediately vomited blood and flew out of the assembly hall like a broken kite. There was no breath left, but only a pair of eyes staring at the sky like a copper bell. All Mo's family members, all start up, take out all means, find out all the information of this person and where he is, no matter where he is. Immediately after that, the ancestor of the Mo family holds up Qin Bing's mobile phone, shows Yi Tian's face in front of the Mo family, and says in a deep voice, "How could it be him?" At this time, when the last two Mo family members with black Mo embroidered on their chests saw the photo, they couldn't help looking at each other. Yes, at the same time, a group of Mo family members have already bowed themselves to the ancestor of Mo family. "Laozu, we really want to know where this guy is." The two children of the Mo family looked at each other, swallowed their saliva, and looked at the old ancestor of the Mo family. You two know? The ancestor of Mo family glanced at them suspiciously. You should know that the Mo family with black embroidery is the weakest in cultivation. They are only Xuanji. They are responsible for patrolling mountains and handling trivial matters. He doesn't understand how these two people know Yi Tian's whereabouts. Laozu, this man is in the underground fire cave of our Mo family. We just brought him in with a woman. The two Mo family members nodded in a hurry, respectfully. What? Hearing the news, the ancestor of the Mo family couldn't help looking stunned, and his face was full of wonder. Not only him, but the rest of Mo's family were all dull. They just thought of countless ways to find Yi Tian, but they didn't expect that this guy who dares to break the ground on Tai Sui's head is so bold that he comes to Mo's family to make a mistake. Are you sure it's him? Then you can see what cultivation he is? After a long silence, Mo's father looked at the two Mo family members and said slowly. Unless this guy has a twin, we can be absolutely sure. As for cultivation, we don't see him, but it's the woman he's carrying. Cultivation is in the later stage of Xuanji. The two Mo family members nodded in a hurry and continued to give a positive reply. I killed my Mo family, but I dare to come to Qiyun Mountain. This man is really deceiving people too much. Is this a soft persimmon that he doesn't pay attention to our Mo family at all and regards us as anything that he can need casually? Go to the underground fire cave and kill him. Everyone in the Mo family yelled, and everyone's face was full of anger. After killing the people of the Mo family, he ran to the site of the Mo family and used the ground fire of the Mo family. This guy is a little too arrogant. Go and have a look. Mo's father was also a little pale with anger. He snorted and stood up with a flick of his sleeve. Well. But at this moment, his face suddenly changed. What's the matter? How did the aura on the mountain fade so much all of a sudden? Something's wrong, it's strange. At the same time, many children of the Mo family also spoke out in consternation and looked around in confusion. At this moment, they just feel like a water pump with filtering capacity has been thrown into their body, pumping all the aura of heaven and earth, making them feel that the Tathagata has come to the desert of aura. The breath comes from the underground fire cave. It's that guy. He's doing something strange. Immediately after that, Mo's father explored carefully, and immediately felt the core area of the spiritual change. With a deep look, he walked out of the meeting hall and said coldly, "Follow me to the underground fire cave and see what he is doing." With his action, a group of Mo family members immediately followed closely behind, formed a long line, and walked forward. At the same time, in the underground fire cave. Yes. Yi Tian quietly looks at the hanging sky. After losing the ground fire, it turns into lavender again, but there are many living like gold wires in the middle of it. His face is full of strong joy. Back to the earth so long, he, the Emperor of Dan, now, finally has his own Dan stove. From then on, the last stumbling block on the road of Dan Dao was finally kicked away. From today on, I want to reappear the earth in the name of Emperor Dan. After that, Yi Tian takes a move. When the red stove falls in the palm of his hand, his eyes are firm, confident, and straight into the sky. Master, who is it? And he stared at Yi Tian's figure, his eyes full of admiration, and confusion. I don't know why, she felt that at this moment, Yi Tian, holding the red stove, seemed to have integrated with the red stove. In other words, in the whole world, there is no other person who can match Dan Lu better than him. This kind of feeling cannot but let Ani be at a loss. Unfortunately, the elixir is not enough now, otherwise, with the help of this local fire, a furnace of Guiyuan pill can be made. Yi Tiandian shakes his head in sighs after shaking the stove in his hand. Then he turns his mind and takes the stove into the storage ring. He takes out all the weapons he seized from Yuan's treasure house and those mountain people before him. In a flash, the ground was immediately filled with all kinds of weapons. One on top of the other, it's almost a hill. This. And he looked at the scene with a gaping stare, and rubbed his eyes with his hand. Then he was sure that the scene he saw in front of his eyes was real. However, she really can't understand how Yi Tian conjures up so many weapons. Master, you have a storage weapon. All of a sudden, Yi's eyes stopped and suddenly thought of what the master had said to him. he lost his voice and exclaimed. Yes, I do have a storage device. Yi Tian didn't hide anything and nodded with a smile. God. And Yi hears the sound and looks at Yi Tian ardently. The worship and incredible color in her eyes become more and more intense. It's extremely rare to have such things as the storage utensils. Even the storage utensils owned by Sanzangliaman can be counted in one slap. But Yi Tian's body, unexpectedly has one. This how cannot let the human shock. At this time, Yi Tian began to use his mana to forge the weapons that only touched the edge of the heavy weapons. In the blink of an eye, every weapon is melted into liquid metal by the blazing ground fire, and then the impurities in it are either burned up by the ground fire or forced out by Yi Tian's magic power. After this forging, only half of the molten metal from these weapons is left. Next, Yi Tian uses his magic power to fuse all kinds of metal liquids, and then gradually forms one weapon after another in the air. In addition to the common swords and swords, there are also rare weapons such as magic disc, bell and hammer, as well as many concealed weapons such as willow leaf throwing knives and meteor darts. Although these weapons are only rudiments, their appearance and sharpness are much higher than before. Especially when Yi Tian engraved the field spirit pattern which is suitable for weapons, it is more like earth-shaking changes. Every weapon, in addition to the frightening sharp breath, has a sense of flexibility. This feeling, as Ani felt, was very similar to the willow blade in his hand. That's all. The spirit of every weapon in the arena is different. It's as light as the wind, as heavy as a mountain, or as swift as the wind sweeping the ground. All kinds of strange and flexible ideas are startling. According to An Yi's judgment, these weapons should be like their own throwing knives. They are all spiritual weapons. As for why the sense of flexibility is different, it should be that Yi Tian enters into different fields. However, she doesn't understand how Yi Tian can master so many field spirit lines. This kind of accumulation is so terrible that it can't even be compared with the 3 schools and 6 schools with profound foundation. But where did she know that when she was in Fangsu and Lingyu, Yi Tian had the title of Sanduo Danti? The so-called 3 more, one is more than Dan Feng, the second is more than practice method, the third is more than field spirit lines. After all, as a square-inch spiritual realm, he was respected by thousands of people. Even if the friars of Yupujing had something to ask for, the emperor of Dan, at that time, what Yi Tian wanted, others would dare to hold it respectfully. Yi Tian is interested in these 3 things. Those who ask Yi Tian to refine pills or want to get in touch with Yi Tian naturally collect these things in order to get his green eyes. If Yi Tian didn't have a special love for Ningyao, otherwise, plus the gorgeous nuns sent by those who asked him to refine pills, 3 more Danti would undoubtedly become 4 more Danti, and there would be another Taoist couple duo. Yi Tian's field spirit tattoos used in refining these spirit tools are less than 1/10,000th of what he knows, and they are the most common ones. Because the material of these weapons is too mundane. If it is a better field spirit pattern, it can't be engraved on these things. If it is forced, it will only make these materials lose their divinity and become mundane. His stab. But at this moment, the ground fire in the stone room suddenly surged upward, followed by a sound like water splashed on the fire. The bundle of ground fire, with the speed visible to the naked eye, quickly changed from flaming to flickering like a candle. Finally, it dissipated slowly, leaving only a stone carving with bird's head in the open space. Earth, fire, it's out. And Yi looks at this scene in a daze. After a long time, she mumbles in disbelief. The fire here is too rare. Yi Tian also lost his mind for a while, and then shook his head helplessly. The ground fire bred by the terrain here is too thin. It might have been able to burn for a year or 2, but it is now exhausted because it has stimulated the source like a dried-up river. This also means that from now on, the Mo family will have one less source of income. Master, the fire is out. The Mo family will not give up with us. Let's run away. An Yi stares at the extinguished ground fire for a long time and rubs his eyes hard. After he is sure that he has no hallucination, he is a fool at first, and then he is worried about Yi Tian. It's not a trivial matter that the fire goes out. It directly cuts off a source of income for the Mo family. An Mo family, it is not a good family, even if the fire extinguished things have nothing to do with them, will let them compensate. Not to mention, at the moment, Tian refined so many spirit weapons with the help of the earth fire here.
Tian, get out!
But almost at the moment when Ani's voice fell, a burst of shouts came out of the stone room.
Mo family reaction speed, how so fast?
Ani sees this, can't help but get a zhang, but the color that the eye ground flustered have no measure, but become more thick. If the Mo family didn't find out, she and Tian may still have the possibility to leave, but now that the Mo family has found out, where can they escape?
It's time to come, it's time to come.
Tian hears the news and naturally knows that it should be his killing Mo's family in the Yanawifing drag racing competition, which is discovered by these guys. However, when he came to Mo's house, he didn't think that the people of Mo's house would not find out about it. With a faint smile, he stretched out his hand to open the door of the stone room and said, "Who was calling me just now?" When the door was opened, Fang Yi immediately saw that there were all mountain people in the forest outside. Moreover, the worst of them were all the same as her. What's more amazing is that standing in the front row, there is also one in the early days, 4 in the peak of prefecture level and 3 in the late days of prefecture level. And these people's eyes, at the moment, are staring at Tian, bad eyes, killing.
I told you to get out of here.
Tian's words fall down, and immediately a Mo family member of Xuanji's peak stands out, points to Tian and shouts loudly.
Good.
The Leaf Day hears a sound, toward him light swept one eye, the vision is cold. Swept by the cold eyes, the Mo family's heart was trembling, and his eyes were frightened. Suddenly, he had a cold feeling and rushed straight up the brain along his spine.
Su.
But at this time, Tian casually stretched out his hand to him. Before the Mo family around him had time to have any reaction, the Mo family felt coerced by a huge force and flew to Tian uncontrollably.
Bang! Immediately after that, Tian pushes his palm forward and smashes his dantian. Ah! The dantian is broken and the cultivation is empty. The Mo family immediately raises their heads and howls.
Now, who else feels that he has a big voice and can continue to shout? After Tian kicks the Mo family away, he sweeps his eyes around the covetous Mo family coldly and faintly.
It's over.
Ani's heart sank when she saw this scene.
She thinks that Tian has offended Mo's family to death. Even if he apologizes, he can't be kind.
Thinking of this, she immediately clenched the willow leaf throwing knife in her hand and got closer to Tian. She was ready to wait for an opportunity to fight out with Tian.
Laozu, look inside the grottos, the earth. How did the fire go out?
At this time, a Mo family suddenly pointed to the grottos in a hurry and said in a trembling voice.
The fire goes out? What's going on?
The fire of my Mo family has been burning for so many years, even the water can't be poured out, and the stones can't be blocked out.
How can it suddenly go out? How could the fire go out? It's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. What did this guy do to the fire? As soon as the words fell, all the Mo family's eyes immediately looked at the grottos.
When they saw that the ground fire, which had been burning, had disappeared, their faces changed greatly and they cried out in disbelief. The fire here is not only the foundation of Mo family, but also the symbol of Mo family. But now, this hand to create a prosperous Maggia, let them open branches scattered leaves, with today's power of the ground fire, unexpectedly put out, which naturally makes them feel unbelievable. However, they really can't understand how the spit can't be put out and the fire can't be put out.
What did you do?
Even Mo's ancestors, at this moment, a face has become iron blue, long eyebrows shaking, pointing to Yi Tianling voice scolded.
This fire in your house, just like you people, is rubbish. Just use it a few times and it will be destroyed.
Yi Tian shrugs at will, light way.
You. The ancestor of the Mo family was trembling all over, and his eyes were almost bursting with fire. Boy, you destroyed the fire of my Mo family. Today, I'll let you pay for your life.
At this time, a prefecture-level later stage of the fierce drink, the whole body around a very fierce Wen Yuan breath, fast as a ghost, toward Yi Tian shot away, at the same time, clenched his fist, gathered all the strength, toward Yi Tian's chest, a blow heavily.
You're a piece of trash, too. Yi Tian sneers.
When the prefecture-level official wants to touch his body, he waves his hand at will.
Bang!
In a flash of lightning, everyone felt that there was a flower in front of them. Then they saw a shadow rising up in the sky. Then they fell into the mountains and forests in the distance and broke countless trees. How could that be? The local level later period superior, unexpectedly is not his opponent, a blow is defeated? This boy, young, how can he have such a great skill? MO family one by one shudder, Panic looked at a face relaxed and calm, as if just picked up a fly like Tian. Not only the ordinary MO family, but also the ancestor of MO family had a look of surprise. At such an age, I have such extraordinary accomplishments. It's really amazing. Not only are these people of MO family, but even Ani, who stands behind Tian, is full of dejection. Just now when she saw the late attack of prefecture level over there, she was still full of worry and fear that Tian would be defeated. Can where what I get, Tian is just a face-to-face, just like solve the local chicken tile dog, easy to solve this prefecture level late master. Which clan are you? Where did my MO family offend you? Today, draw a line and make it clear. Immediately, Mo's ancestor looked at Tian and said in a deep voice. In his opinion, Tian's amazing accomplishments at such an age must be the hidden Tao in the 3 sects and 6 sections. However, he can't understand that the relationship between Mo family and Sanzangliaman has always been good. How can they get into such trouble today? 3 schools and 6 schools? In my eyes, like your Mo family, they are just rubbish. Hearing this, Tian smiles indifferently and says calmly, don't you want to find me for revenge? Let's do it together. I don't mind getting rid of you altogether. 3 cases and 6 gates are rubbish. Together. As soon as Tian said this, many people in Mo's family changed their faces. It's arrogant. I think you've lost your mind. I'll kill you with a knife. In the crowd, soon a prefecture-level peak rushed out. As soon as he waved his long sword, there was a raging flame surging. A knife in the oblique stab, like cutting Huashan Mountain, chopped down Tian heavily. Kill me with a knife? You people are not only rubbish, but also arrogant. Tian looks at the prefecture-level peak and shakes his head and smiles at will. With a move in his mind, the fierce soldier's flying sword suddenly appears in his palm. When the long sword in the prefecture-level peak's hand is about to fall, he raises his hand and waves it at Wu Kung. As soon as the sound of Jin Tai Jiao rang, the long sword in the hands of the prefecture-level peak immediately broke into 2 pieces. God, the elder's sword was cut off by him? This is a quasi-spirit soldier, what's the grade of the sword in this boy's hand? The clear voice made Mo's family tremble in fear. Whoa! At this time, when the fierce soldier's flying sword was cutting off the long sword in the hands of the prefecture-level peak, he was castrated and fell directly on the shoulder of the prefecture-level peak. Then, like cutting tofu, he went straight to the viscera. That appearance, see, is only into the gas, not out of the gas. But at this time, a more eerie and terrifying scene appeared. After the fierce soldier was killed by the flying sword, his fierce attack and terrible phagocytic power appeared. In a flash, he swallowed up all his vitality, turned into flying ash and dissipated in the field. What's the situation? This sword can eat people. He's not a man, he's a demon. How could it be? How can a sword cut a man into ashes? Mo's family has been in a complete mess. At this moment, Tian's sword has turned into fear and panic. Even at this moment, they just feel that Tian, standing in front of him, is no different from a demon god. Not only are they, even Ani, who is standing behind Tian, is constantly trembling in both legs, looking at Tian in horror. Tiangong's method of turning man into fly ash with one sword, how can it look like the method of evil? This makes her all can't help suspecting that Tian around her is an evil devil in human skin. But what she can't understand is that if naivete is evil, why did she care about the lives of ordinary people on the car before? Evil? Right? Magic? God? All these things are just illusory. There is no difference between good and evil in practice. There is no difference between evil and evil in means. The only difference is not in practice, not in means, but in human beings. Exactly? Evil? Magic? God? Only one heart, but suddenly, she remembered that a long time ago, when she asked her master about the so-called difference between good and evil, she drank a few glasses of wine and looked at her long speech with a smile. Yi Tian's means at the moment may be close to the devil, but he is not evil, and he is right, he is God. You, who else? At this time, Yi Tian's eyes swept forward calmly, passing the faces of the Mo family in the field. But at this moment, the more calm his eyes are, the more people feel that this calm look is a kind of provocation. But in the face of his eyes, those Mo family members couldn't restrain their fear. One by one, they could not help but slightly shake their bodies. They quietly stepped back towards the rear for fear that Yi Tian would turn them into ashes without saying a word. Sure enough, everyone here is rubbish. Yi Tian sweeps his eyes at the Mo family and shakes his head casually, scoffing. After this, all the faces of the Mo family became extremely ugly, and many people felt that their cheeks were burning and stinging, and they felt that they were slapped heavily on their faces. Closely following, everyone's eyes all fell on the front of the Mo family ancestors. Mocking our Mo family as rubbish? The ancestor of the Mo family slowly moved forward 2 steps, staring at Yi Tian with both eyes, and said faintly, "Do you know that all the people who dare to make trouble in the Mo family over the years have become the fertilizer for raising this mountain?" Lao Zhu is right. Anyone who comes to my Mo family to make a quarrel, no matter which one, has become the fertilizer for raising Qiyun Mountain. Although he is arrogant, he is no exception. Lao Zhu's hand is the power of heaven. He can't fight it. I don't believe it. At his age, he can beat the old monster. Lao Zhu will win. The words of the Mo family's ancestors were like a shot in the arm for the Mo family. They immediately talked and echoed each other. You want me to make fertilizer? Let me see if you have the ability. First, Yi Tian's eyes were awe-inspiring, and he jumped up to perform the emperor's fist directly. This fist, simple and straightforward, without any strange things, goes straight to the ancestor of the Mo family. As soon as his voice dropped, his fist swung. In a flash, the ground suddenly trembled. Pieces of earth and stone suddenly turned into cold arrows and went towards Yi Tian. Not only that, when the earth and rock flying along the air, there is a terrible wind. Whenever the overcast wind passed, the ground was quickly covered with a thin layer of white frost, and around, there was a sharp sound like ghost roaring. Ha ha ha, Lao Zhu's hand is really powerful. No matter how strong the boy is, he can't be the opponent of Lao Zhu today. He can't escape the fate of turning into fertilizer to nourish my life in Yunshan. The people of the Mo family look at the means of their ancestors. They are all trembling and yelling with excitement. It seems that they have already seen the picture of Yi Tian's rapid decline in front of the great power of his ancestors. Ah! As soon as the sharp sound came into his ears, Fang Yi immediately raised his hand to cover his ears. He fell to the ground and screamed, feeling that everything in front of him had turned into a sea of blood. To Yuan Taoism, combined with Shai's attack on Xinyan, is a common means. Do you want to take it out? Hearing this, Yi Tian smiles indifferently, and his mana is flowing and his blood is released. At the moment when the fierce vitality collided with the wind, it immediately spread like a kind of hot sun melting snow, and washed away all the wind. How could that be? How can he break the old ancestor's evil intention? This guy, how can he have such strong vitality? How does he practice? This scene let the Mo family people's face of joy and hope instantly solidified, one by one. Incredible scream. Not to mention the people of Mo family, even the ancestor of Mo family, after seeing this, his eyes twitched violently. Even he didn't expect that the evil intention of his attack with the local Taoist art was just a face-to-face encounter, and then he was scattered by Yi Tian. But at this time, Yi Tian's fist has come to the Mo family's ancestors. The Mo family's ancestors have been fighting for a long time, and their reaction speed is extremely sharp. Although they are absent-minded, they still have enough strength to block Yi Tian's fist. Bang! With a dull sound, Mo's father's body suddenly trembled and immediately flew upside down. After 4 or 5 steps back, he just stood still and spilled blood along the corner of his mouth. Is that what you call victory? Yi Tian closes his fist lightly, and sweeps his eyes at Mo's ancestors and the Mo's family members who have been completely stunned. A word fell down, and there was a moment of silence in the room. Before that, those Mo family people, who were full of confidence after seeing the old ancestor's hand, muttered, but could not say a heroic word. This time, Yi Tian didn't move. Lao Zu stepped back 5 or 6 steps, and his mouth overflowed with blood. The result couldn't be clearer. It seems that I can't deal with you without some real means. Over the years, you are still the first one to let me take out the means of pressing the bottom of the box. But at this time, the ancestor of the Mo family raised his hand, slowly wiped away the blood from the corner of his mouth, and looked at Yi Tian with a ferocious look. Not only that, the moment the words fell along his body, suddenly there was a huge heat released, the feeling that he was going to turn into a skyfire. You have drawn the spirit power of Earthfire into your body. Yi Tian sees Mo's father's action, and his eyes are slightly awe-inspiring. He said, how could the aura of the fire of the Mo family be so weak? It turned out that the ancestor of the Mo family devoured part of the aura contained in the fire of the earth to increase his accomplishments. You have some eyesight. Since I became the head of my family, I have learned from this earth fire every day to enhance my fire alchemy. In all these years, no one has ever forced me to use this move. Today, I'll take you to have a try. What's the power of my move? Looking at Yi Tian with a ferocious smile, Mo's ancestor immediately cheered coldly, burn the sky. In a flash, the earth fire breath burst out from the body of Mo's ancestors, and immediately filled the field. Even the Mo family, standing behind the ancestors of the Mo family, felt hot and dry, and the skin of the meat felt scorched. It's interesting. Yi Tianlu was a little surprised. He didn't expect that the ancestor of Mo family had found a way to use the power of earth fire for himself. But there is no doubt that this guy is the most powerful opponent he has ever met. Even Duan Koan of King Ningzong is far inferior to him. It is a pity that although Mo's ancestor is powerful, he misjudged the situation. Boy, under the fire, this is my field. Here, I am the only one. Looking at Yi Tian's look, Mo's ancestor sneered and bullied him forward. After covering Yi Tian with the smell of earth fire, he punched Yi Tian hard. At the same time, along the back of Yi Tian, there was a palm twisted by the spirit of earth fire, grabbing Yi Tian's neck heavily. That appearance, straight let a person feel, once be caught, leaf day from the neck above, will be burned into coke fly ash. Playing with fire in front of me is really your biggest mistake. But at this time, Yi Tian's face suddenly stirred up a strange smile. The smile, strange and incomparable, fell into the eyes of the Mo family, suddenly let him feel, he seems to be Yi Tian as a delicious game. This feeling, let his heart, inexplicably produced a situation, some uncontrollable sense of panic. The fire of the world belongs to me. It's endless. I'll think about it. Yi Tian recites the pithy formula in his mouth, and the idea of Sua Wangwen in his body suddenly runs. In an instant, his body becomes a huge black hole, and suddenly gives birth to a kind of fierce and extreme phagocytic power. And this power gives birth to a moment, unexpectedly is straight to lock the hand that the earth fire spirit turns, pull it toward the body. Ah, boy, is seeking death what you mean? Seeing this scene, the panic in the heart of Mo's ancestors suddenly dissipated, and he looked up and laughed. The palm of the hand, which is transformed by the aura of earth fire, is the purest breath of fire yuan. As long as you get a little bit of it and don't burn through the bones, you will never stop. At this moment, Yi Tian even took the initiative to pull this palm to his body. This is not looking for death, what is it? What is he going to do? And he also looks at Yi Tian in consternation, full of confusion, unable to understand why Yi Tian would make such a suicidal move. In the blink of an eye, the palm of the earth fire spirit touched Yi Tian's body. But just then, an extremely incredible scene appeared. After touching Yi Tian's body, the palm of earth fire's aura didn't burn Yi Tian into a fiery man as Mo's ancestors expected. On the contrary, it went into the sea like a mudox and disappeared into Yi Tian's body without a sound. Even a spark didn't jump up. Who? Even after the big hand composed of the earth fire aura entered the body, Yi Tian vomited out a mouthful of turbid qi. That appearance is like Yi Tian swallowing the killing move of Mo's ancestors. No way, what's going on? The old ancestor of the Mo family looks at Yi Tian in front of him in horror. At this moment, the uneasiness in his heart has become more and more intense.
Even at this moment, he has a hunch that today is the end of the MO family. Why did the flaming hand disappear in his body? What's the matter? Is this boy a man or a monster? How can the Earth Fire Spirit not deal with him? Everyone in the MO family is boiling, staring at the young man quietly in the boundless aura of fire. Everyone's face is full of shock and panic. This feeling is really good. At this time, Tian looked at the MO family's ancestor, his eyes shining, and then said, "In this world, all the auras that are transformed by pure fire are my tonic. Today, I'll borrow your hand to make up for it." As he said, the idea of Sua Wangwen belongs to a kind of fire skill. Rashly absorbing the aura of fire may cause damage to other people's body, but for Tian, who cultivates the idea of Sua Wangwen, not only will it not cause any damage to his body, but it will make him stronger. This is also why Tian would have said that the Mo family's ancestors chose the wrong person to deal with him by this means. In an instant, Mo's ancestors immediately felt that the earth fire aura they released suddenly, as if they had received a more powerful traction, and began to converge to Tian's body uncontrollably. What's more amazing is that when Tian's body is filled with these earthly fire auras, they are like a mudox entering the sea, and disappear in an instant. Not only that, with the entry of the earth fire aura, along Tian's body, began to emit a terrible momentum, that feeling, people feel that at this moment, Tianru has become a king in the fire. It seems that as long as he wants to raise his hand, he can turn the mountains into a sea of fire. Damn it! Damn it! Mo's ancestors yelled at him, quickly and incomparably, and he wanted to restrain the earth fire breath. What scares him is that the traction from Tian's body is too strong. The earth fire aura in his body is just like a star drawn by a black hole to his own force field. It quickly overflows along his body uncontrollably and converges towards Tian's body. At the same time, pure earth fire aura enters the body, which makes Tian feel that his pores are dilated. If he is immersed in the warm ocean of aura, the whole person will feel intoxicated and almost drunk to the ground. When he thought about Sui Wangwen, he felt that the medicine was as warm as a hot spring in his body. At this moment, Tian almost has an illusion, such as to ascend immortal. The earth fire spirit is very strong. It emerges into the bone marrow, channels, flesh and blood, and nourishes all over the body. Even Tian can clearly feel that he is in the process of evolution and his physique is growing rapidly. At the end of the day, his bones vibrated, his 5 internal organs roared, like stones and thunder. With these anomalies, a layer of sticky substance was immediately expelled from Tian's body surface. Dawn! 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 In his body, the sound of his heart beating, and the frequency of the original spirit fire in Tian, completely reached a resonance. Every shock, every swaying, there is a mysterious force, rushing to the 4 limbs. This is a kind of exercise that seems to be reborn. Similarly, when these sounds were introduced into the ears of the people around them, they felt that their eardrums were shaking and their souls were shaking. They even felt an impulse to prostrate and kneel down to Tian. He's breaking through. He's looking for a breakthrough in cultivation with the help of the earth fire aura that I've worked so hard to gather. However, what kind of skill did he practice? The vision of breakthrough was so amazing. Looking at this scene, Mo's ancestors are in a hurry and aware of Tian's plot. All this led him puzzled, also led him fear. It never occurred to him that there should be such a strange situation in the world. Boom! At this time, Tian's body suddenly trembled slightly. He suddenly felt that it was like penetrating something. He could hear and see in an instant. The whole person was like breaking free from some kind of invisible shackles. He became light and alert. His 5 senses were amazing. Especially in his dantian of the original spirit fire virtual shadow, at the moment in the spirit fire core position, finally have a flame become completely solid. Although this is just a wisp of change, Tian feels that as long as the original spirit fire turns into this kind of entity, then it can burn through the void and burn the sky and the earth. As for the power that lingered all over him, it made him feel as if he was living in the mud. He was bound everywhere and could not follow his heart. And now, he finally got rid of the mire, the whole person has become ethereal, have become free. The 5th floor of the cave. Tian bowed his head and clenched his fist. He felt that the original spirit fire had turned into an immortal stove,
which was providing him with power continuously and releasing the incomparable life power. This feeling is just the symptom of breaking through cultivation and entering the 5th floor of the cave poop. At the same time, the ancestor of the Mo family knelt down on his knees with white hair. His whole face was completely out of color and his body was rickets. He looked as if he had grown old for several decades in an instant and had really entered his last years. Earth fire aura is the pillar and source of his vitality. But now, all these vitality and source are stripped from his body by Tian. At this moment, he is weak to the extreme. You've helped me so much, I'll have a good time for you. Tian sweeps his eyes at Mo's ancestors. With a flick of his finger, a little flame flutters up and falls on Mo's ancestors. You. The ancestor of Mo family was frightened, but he only had time to say one word, and his whole body was covered by the terrible flame. In less than 2 breaths, he was burned into a cloud of fly ash and quietly scattered. It's a dead silence. All people's eyes are staring at Tian, and no one dares to say a word. Those Mo family members, who used to have high eyes and high self-esteem, are trembling and treading on thin ice. Some people even can't believe their eyes and pinch their thighs. But the tingling reminds them that all this is not an illusion, but a reality. Old Laozu, dead. All of a sudden, I don't know who it is. I tremble and say it. As soon as the voice of the words fell, countless people in Mo's family began to sob, and many people's faces showed fear and despair. The ancestor of the Mo family is the root of the Mo family's transcendence. Now, the only heaven-level old monster is dead. Even if Tian let them go, how can the other cultivation families and clan that have long been eyeing the Mo family let them go? Master, from now on, I will live in Mo's family in Yunshan Mountain. I respect my master, but if I have an assignment, I dare not follow it. A little later, the 3 remaining prefectural peaks of the Mo family looked at each other and knelt down in front of Tian almost at the same time, kowtowing and imploring. Respect Master Yi. From now on, Master Yi is the master of the Mo family, but if you have a destiny, don't dare not follow it. Please forgive us, Master Yi, and let our Mo family have a way to live. Immediately after that, all Mo's family members kneel down on the ground and put their heads on the ground. They cry to Tian, hoping that Tian can raise his hand, let Mo's family go and give them a way to live. Ani looked at the scene in front of her. Before she came to Mo's home, she had never thought of all this. What's more, she didn't expect that in the past, the family of cultivation, which was so powerful and almost daunting to her, was actually so fragile that before the crisis, it was no better than Sanshio. But what she knew was that if it wasn't for Tian, I'm afraid that this scene today and now would be bloody and die. Spare you? Tian smell speech, eyebrow tip lightly a pick, immediately toward Mo family. These people after seeing light way, since you want to live, then take out some living money. Where is the treasure house of Mo family? I like to appreciate treasures. Take me to appreciate them. Appreciation? When the Mo family heard Tian's words, their hearts suddenly sank. They are not idiots, how can they not know? Although Tian said this well, but the so-called appreciation, I'm afraid, is meat steamed stuffed bun beat dog. Once Tian was rewarded, it will never come back. What? Don't you want to take me? If so, it doesn't matter. I don't like to force others. If you don't want to, I'll clean the place first and then find it slowly. Tian picks an eyebrow to lightly smile. The vision slowly flits over the face of those Mo family members in the field. The eyes, cold as ice, let people see, they feel shudder, straight along the bone marrow deep out of the cold. Master, you are worried. We'll take you to the storeroom for you to appreciate. After hearing the words, the Mo family's prefecture-level leaders shuddered, clasped their hands in a hurry, bent to 90 degrees, and trembled. They are not stupid, how can not know, if really like Tian said, let him come, I'm afraid the presence of these Mo family, I don't want to live. Spending money on disaster relief and life is their only choice now. Just now, a school bag of my friend accidentally fell here, as if it had been picked up by your Mo family. I hope to see that bag return to her hands later. Tian light smile, toward Ani he looked at eyes, and then to Mo family these people calm way. Don't worry, senior. As long as things are in Shiyun Mountain, we will return to Zhao. Hearing the news, the prefecture-level peak hurriedly clasped his hands and said respectfully. After that, he winked at the Mo family behind him, indicating who took Ani's bag and quickly took it out.
Glancing past, the two Mo family members who had brought Yi Tian and an Yi to Diwa Grottos ran to one side in a hurry to get an Yi's things back. A moment later, Ani's school bag was brought back. And inside the school bag, it's bulging. It's obvious that all the money in the school bag came back as before.
Master, this is your bag. The two Mo family members, holding the school bag in both hands, handed it to an Yi and said respectfully. Ani heard the word senior and looked a little flustered. After taking the bag, she felt more dreamy. Before that, Yi Tian said that she would let the people in Mo's family hold the bag in their hands and return it to her as it is.
She also thought that Yi Tian was daydreaming and could not take the meat bun out of the dog's mouth.
But now it seems that she made a mistake. As long as your strength is strong enough, even if the meat bun is put into the dog's mouth, the dog can still spit it out. Lead the way. And at this time, Leaf Day toward that prefecture-level peak light swept an eye way. Sir, this way, please. That prefecture-level peak hears speech, hurriedly takes Yi Tian, all the way up, comes to the top of the mountain, and enters a house like a small palace. When you enter the room, you can see that there are rows of wooden frames in the small palace. On each wooden frame, there are different things, either practicing secret methods, or miraculous drugs, pills, or materials for refining utensils. Yi Tian just swept a few eyes casually, then some interest lacked. These pills are all Shenling pills and Dilling pills, which are of very low grade.
Now they have made him unable to take them at all.
As for materials, most of them are ordinary goods, and there is nothing precious. Soon, Yi Tian walked through the house, did not pay much attention to those pills, but fell on all kinds of miraculous drugs collected by the Mo family.
Tiang Cinco, 10 years old, is too weak and useless. Coagulation ginseng, 100 years old, but it's too common, but it's barely useful.
Yi Tian's eyes swept on the wooden frame one by one, but his brows were constantly wrinkled. He thought that the Mo family should have accumulated a lot of good things because of their good fortune, but now it seems that although they are a little better than the Yuan family's treasure house, they are nothing more than that.
Yi Tian sighs gently that the Mo family is a little poorer than he imagined.
After searching for a circle, Yi Tian found only 4 kinds of things from Mo's treasure house. There are 2, is a panacea, a red blood salvia miltioriza, a fire leaf orchid. Both of them are rare elixirs.
What's more, they can be used to refine Guiyuan pill with Zuyan's hand.
As for the other 2, one is a half-fist-size fire spirit jade, the other is 5-color spirit earth. Naturally, there is no need to elaborate on the efficacy of fire attribute Lingyu. It is this 5-color spirit soil, even if Yi Tian is seeing, all can't help but be surprised for a while.
The 5-color spiritual soil is the spiritual soil formed at the intersection of the 5 elements.
This kind of soil is not a material for refining utensils, but a kind of spiritual soil for cultivating miraculous drugs. No matter it is any kind of magic medicine, it can be planted on the 5-color spiritual soil. With the 5-color spiritual soil, if you encounter an immature but extremely precious elixir, you don't have to give it up. Instead, you can transplant it into the 5-color spiritual soil and cultivate it to maturity. Not only that, but also because of the influence of the 5 elements aura contained in the 5-color soil, the property of the 5-color soil can be greatly improved. It can be said that the 5-color spiritual soil is the most coveted thing for all the danshio and the herb gatherers. In the past, when he was in Fangsuan Lingyu, even Yi Tian, who was the emperor of Dan, had 100 mu medicinal field made of 5-color Lingtu. It's a pity that Mo family's 5-color soil is too small to cultivate a kind of elixir. Besides this treasure house, does the Mo family have a secret treasure house? Yi Tian put away the 4 and looked at the top of the Mo family in a deep voice. Mojiobeku is really too shabby. It doesn't conform to Mojiobeku's stingy character. This made him suspect that the Mo family, like the Yuan family, had hidden treasures besides this treasure house. But he had just visited with a divine vision, and there was no space at the bottom of the treasure house. Master, all the treasures of the Mo family are really here. The prefecture-level peak heard the words, his legs trembled, and he knelt down in front of Yi Tian in a hurry. The trembling voice explained, Elder, you don't know, my ancestors broke through the Tian level just the year before last. At that time, in order to buy the Tian Lingdan for the breakthrough from Qingming sect, they almost emptied the savings of Mo family. I see. Yi Tian was speechless at the sound. He said that it was unreasonable for the Mo family to be poor. It turned out that the treasure house of the Mo family had been ransacked by the Qingming sect before he ransacked it. In this case, if you are not poor, it is really strange. However, just a heavenly elixir makes a cultivation family so poor that we can see how dark the hand of Qingming sect is and how high the price of the heavenly elixir is. However, this situation makes Yi Tian look forward to the treasure house of Qingming sect. I feel that if I have the chance to enter Qingming sect in the future, I can go to the treasure house of Qingming sect to appreciate it. I think there should be many treasures that can make me excited. Well, I'll accept the things in the treasure house. Yi Tian looks at the top of the prefecture level and smiles faintly. His mind spreads and covers the treasure house. All the things except those for cultivating mental skills are put into the storage ring. Although these things didn't mean much to him, as the saying goes, no matter how small a mosquito's leg is, it's meat. He planned to reappear the Temple of Miluo in Feilai Peak, which would cost a lot of money. A moment later, except for a few broken books, the warehouse was so empty that even the mice couldn't live in it and had to move. Just, big eyes stare small eyes of them, really can't understand, full of a warehouse of things, Yi Tian is how to let them disappear without a trace in an instant. Store things. But just for a moment, for words suddenly appeared in the mind of that prefecture-level peak. At the moment of this thought, he had bent into a waist of 90 degrees, and now he was down a few degrees. Heaven-level old monsters are not rivals. They still have storage tools on them. They have provoked such people, but the warehouse has been empty. Mo family is very lucky. He has no doubt that if the other party is willing, from today on, there will be no more Qiyun Mountain Mo family in the world. Bang! But just at this time, Yi Tian's body suddenly floated and moved, and immediately hit out with 3 hands. In a flash, the 3 remaining prefectural peaks of the Mo family immediately covered the Dantian and collapsed to the ground with a ferocious expression. And from their bodies, the air of cultivation at the top of the prefecture level is rapidly disappearing like flowing water. It's obvious that Yi Tiangong's hands have already destroyed their cultivation. But even so, those Mo family members around, although full of fear and tremor, but no one dared to approach half a step, even involuntarily back 2 steps, like the tide, fell to their knees. Master, all the things in the treasure house have been given to you. Why do you want to waste our cultivation? The 3 prefectural peaks, feeling the passing of cultivation, looked at Yi Tian in agony and ferocity, unwilling to say. The old ancestor died, but the Mo family still had 3 prefectural peaks. Other cultivation families and clans were afraid of the Mo family and did not dare to act rashly. But now, Yi Tian has abandoned their 3 accomplishments, which means that there is no master in the Mo family. At that time, how can those who practice aristocratic families and religious sects let go of the Mo family, which used to be arrogant and domineering, and who had formed countless feuds, and even some casual practitioners, have to come to the Mo family for a share? Don't you like to be above others and not treat others as human beings? Today, I'll help you understand a truth: to be a mountain person, to be an important person on the mountain, and to have a heart at the foot of the mountain. Yi Tian looks at these 3 prefectural peaks and smiles indifferently. The Mo family is arrogant and domineering, and even the rule that ordinary people can't get close to the woolly of Qiyun Mountain is set. We can imagine how they used to treat ordinary people in Meilin City. Such a family of cultivation, if not destroyed, is a disaster. If Yi Tian doesn't see it, it's alright. But since he sees it, he can't just sit back and ignore it. Moreover, he thinks that if Mo's family can be easily destroyed, some of them are too cheap. They should have a good feeling. Just as they used to treat ordinary people, they were trampled on by people and regarded as mole ants. Let's go. A language falls, leaf day to an EE to see an I, then turn round to walk toward the foot of the mountain. 2nd elder, 3rd elder, and 4th elder, what shall we do in the future? My family is dead. Where should we go? There is no one at the top of the prefecture level, and all the inside information has been hollowed out. From now on, our Mo family is going to be a soft persimmon. Elder 2,
what shall we do in the future?
A group of MO family members, after watching Tian leave in fear, just got up from the ground and rushed to the top of the 3 prefectural level who had been abandoned.
They cried uneasily.
If you lose the ancestor of the MO family, you will never be able to stay at the top of the prefecture level.
Then, what is waiting for the MO family in the future is that no matter who you are, you can come and knead your destiny at will. Move, go. Abandon Chiyun Mountain, we MO family, change a place to live.
From now on, all of you will remember that you should learn to be a man with your tail between your legs. After a long silence, Elder Mo slowly glanced at Chiyun Mountain, gritted his teeth and made a decision. If you don't have enough experts to sit down, then the Mo family who still stays in Chiyun Mountain is like a piece of steamed stuffed bun on the surface. Now the only way for them is to live in another place and start all over again. But there is no doubt that even if the Mo family is lucky enough to escape this disaster, it will be completely finished from now on, and it will be reduced from the former quasi-first-class cultivation family to a low-class one. And in the process of falling, there will be countless blood and tears waiting for them.
Woo woo woo. I don't want to go. I can't bear to live in Yunshan. We Mo family, how can we be reduced to such a situation? For a moment, the whole Chiyun Mountain turned into a mass grave, with a deafening cry. Here are 2 elixirs for you. Keep them for breaking through the prefecture level.
At the same time, after walking down the Chiyun Mountain, Tian takes out 2 D Lingdan from the storage ring and hands them to an E.
Master, I can't accept it. It's too expensive.
Ani heard the words and waved her hands.
There are 10 pills in my pocket. Do you still feel precious now? Take it. I just borrowed your master's words and gave you a little reward.
Leaf Day smell speech, looking at an E to pick eyebrow a smile, light way.
He has a good impression on Ani.
He also hopes that in this world, just like Ani, because he has become a mountain dweller, he will not treat ordinary people as human experts, and he will be able to do more.
On hearing this, Ani put out her tongue immediately.
Tian, who has just ransacked the treasure house of the Mo family, is really very rich at this moment. In her eyes, the precious and incomparable earth elixir is just like Tian's ordinary goods.
Then I won't refuse, but there are too many too. I'll take one.
Thank you. Think of here, Ani didn't say goodbye to Tian anymore, respectfully picked up an elixir, clasped his hands and gave a deep salute to Tian.
Don't be polite.
Tian casually waved his hand, and then his eyes showed a look of eager expectation, said, wait for you to go back to Meilin City, I won't go with you.
And Yi was stunned when she heard the speech.
In this place, there is no village in front and no shop behind.
Because of the Mo family's rules, there is no car. If Tian doesn't go to Meilin City to find a car and leave, is it because he wants to fly away? Well, sir, have a good trip. Although Yi was full of doubts, she didn't ask so many questions.
She hugged Tian and said goodbye. Her eyes suddenly became a little shy.
2 red clouds floated on her cheek and whispered, Master, can you leave your contact information? If I find any good secret in the future, I can contact you and let's explore it together. If you find it inconvenient, it doesn't matter. Immediately after, Ani waved his hand in a hurry, indicating that Tian didn't have to be embarrassed.
But her eyes were full of hope.
Yes.
Tian looks at Ani's shy appearance, a burst of laughter in his heart, and adds Ani's friends.
Well, I'll go first.
After the friend is added, Tian gives a light sentence, and then takes out the fierce sword.
You. Next, Tian's mana turns and flies a little towards the fierce sword. Zheng.
With the roar of the fierce flying sword, the 3-foot sword suddenly expanded into a 5-foot sword.
This
miraculous scene made Ani open her mouth involuntarily, and her face was full of incredible surprise. Not only that, but also at this moment, in her heart, a bold idea just like Arabian Nights suddenly appeared.
I'll go first. At this time, Tian smiles to an E.
Then he makes a slight move at his feet, and people spring up. Then he stands firmly on the fierce soldier's flying sword, and his feet step on the sword face steadily. What's more, after the weight of one more person, the flying sword didn't fall and still hung in the air.
Zheng.
Then, with the sound of the flying sword, it soared into the sky. In the blink of an eye, it broke the sound barrier, turned into a small black spot, and disappeared in the endless blue sky. This. Ani looked at the scene in front of her, and her chin almost fell to the ground. It's flying. He can really fly with his sword. At the same time, the incredible idea in Ani's mind was completely confirmed. After rubbing her eyes hard, she decided that this dreamlike scene was really not her own illusion. If I had known that, I should have discussed with my predecessors and taken me to fly a flying sword. After a long time, Ani stamped her feet, looked up at the direction of Yi Tian's departure, and sighed with regret. But in her heart, at this moment, she felt empty. Just like something important flew away from her. Now it's like this. It's like a cultivator at last. Yi Tianyu's flying sword flies freely in the air, feeling the coming. However, after being offset by the spirit lines of the flying sword field, it is not cold. It just makes people feel comfortable and clear. His mouth is full of satisfaction smile and murmurs to himself. We successfully broke through the 5th floor of the cave. This trip to Meilin, we not only succeeded in Donlu, but also broke through the 5th floor of the cave. What a surprise! Accompanied by the blue sky, white clouds as friends, look around, only one person, let Yi Tian face a bright smile, said to himself. All the way, until Yi Tian felt that his mana was exhausted, he pressed the flying sword and landed in an uninhabited mountain forest near an urban area. In such a short time, it's 100 miles away. When he took out his mobile phone, opened the map, and inquired about the distance from Chiyun Mountain, he was surprised. The speed of the fierce soldier's flying sword was very good, which was beyond his expectation. However, he felt that the imperial flying sword consumed a lot of mana. According to his estimation, at his current strength level, if the imperial flying sword could fly 150 li or so, it would be completely exhausted. Although this distance is a little too small compared with that in the past, it's much more convenient on the Earth, whether it's fighting with people, pursuing them, evacuating them when they meet a strong opponent and can't fight them, or going back and forth in a short distance. Take it. After standing in the woods, Yi Tian made a sword formula in his hand and gently shook it. Suddenly, the fierce soldier's flying sword suspended in front of him began to shrink. At last, it became only the size of wheat on, and then flew to his position in the elixir field. The flying sword and Yi Tian's blood are in harmony, so when it touches the body, it's like a bullock entering the sea, and suddenly it's gone. Immediately after that, Yi Tian felt that there were more things in the elixir field. When he looked inside, he saw a flying sword as big as a wheat on, which was floating above the original spirit fire. While receiving the forging, he sent out a weak sword, meaning, helping the original spirit fire, which was mostly just a shadow, to condense. They complement each other and form a perfect cycle. This is the way to turn the flying sword into mustard seed, which Yi Tian mastered after breaking through the 5th floor of the cave. This method can not only forge the fierce flying sword with the help of the original spirit fire to enhance its sharpness and grade, but also shock the original spirit fire with the help of the fierce sword chi of the flying sword, making it in a combat-like state all the time, sharpening and becoming more solid, flexible, and powerful. Li Chen, where on earth is that thing? You are not deliberately deceiving me, are you? Just as Yi Tian is about to go out of the mountain forest, go to the city and find a high-speed railway or bus to return to Jiangnan City, he suddenly hears a voice of questioning coming from the front. Yi Tian really didn't expect that someone would come to this place and hide his body immediately. Brother Jiang Ming, please be patient and don't be so suspicious. Since I invited you here, I won't cheat you. The purple stone gall is on the cliff not far ahead. It's almost here. At this time, another low voice sounded. Purple stone gall. When Yi Tian heard these 3 words, his eyes couldn't help changing. Purple stone gall, this is a rare stone elixir. In the square-inch Ling domain, there is a saying that it is after the celestial fall, the essence of courage flows into the earth and stone, is disseminated by the heaven and earth spirit, accumulated, thus also has the immortal courage. However, some people say that it is a rare treasure between heaven and earth, a treasure bred by the unique topography of mountains and rivers and the harmony between heaven and earth. The effect of purple stone gall is even more magical. After it is cut, the purple stone gall drops into the eyes, which can make the blind see the light again. If it is a practitioner, it can speed up the biochemical source of the heavenly eye. Once it comes from the heavenly eye, it can shine through the strange veins formed by the fluctuation of aura between heaven and earth, and explore the source of the variety of all things. For the mages who practice field array, it has a powerful effect. Even in the square-inch spirit realm, as long as the purple stone gall appears, the field division will also tend to focus on it. Even Tian used to wash his eyes with the stone bile liquid from the purple stone bile when he was in the square-inch spiritual realm, making his eyes like electricity. But Tian is not sure whether the purple stone gall mentioned by these two people is the same thing as that in the square-inch spirit realm. I hope you didn't cheat me, otherwise, you will regret it. At this time, the guy named Jiang Ming said again, and his tone was full of threats. Haha, don't worry, brother. You won't be disappointed. Li Chen burst out laughing and showed himself very aboveboard. During the conversation, they passed by Yi Tian's hiding place. Both of them are in their 40s, and their accomplishments are not weak. They are both in the middle of the prefecture level, and they are already masters in scattered cultivation. Follow them. If it's really purple stone gall, they can do a business and exchange it for a spirit weapon. Soon, Yi Tian made up his mind, quietly tied behind the two people, followed them forward. A moment later, Jiang Ming suddenly stopped, turned his head and looked behind him. After glancing around, he turned his head and looked at Li Chen and said, Li Chen, why do I think someone is following me? Do you feel that way? Brother Jiang, you are too suspicious. Hearing this, Li Chen frowned, looked around and said with a smile, I'm the only one who knows purple stone gall. How can there be other people? And now we are in the mountain forest. I think there are some wild animals around us. I hope it's my illusion. Let's hurry up. I always feel insecure when we don't get something. Jiang Ming nodded and then said in a deep voice. Brother Jiang, if you really can't believe me, why don't you turn around and go back now, and I'll invite other friends to help me deal with the golden mongoose living around the purple stone gall. When Li Chen heard Jiang Ming's words, he seemed a little upset and frowned coldly. Brother Li, what do you mean by that? I just think you should be careful. You can't believe what you said. Jiang Ming hears the sound, ha hastily, smile away. Forget it, I see you. Only when I see the purple stone gall can I feel at ease. Li Chen shook his head and walked forward quickly. Jiang Ming swept around and made sure there was no movement. Then he followed Li Chen's steps and walked forward. This is Jiang Ming. He has two skills. His perception is sharp enough. In Yi Tian's heart, however, there are some warning signs. He just feels that these two guys are low in cultivation, so he leaves a little bit. Unexpectedly, he is noticed by Jiang Ming. After nearly an hour, Yi Tian followed them into a valley formed by a cliff. The mountains on both sides of the valley are like a dragon and a phoenix. This kind of mountain situation, like the flying of dragons and phoenixes, may really be able to make heaven and earth harmonious and breed purple stone gall. Yi Tian glances at the valley. When he sees the mountain, he looks forward to it. Li Chen, where is purple stone gall? At this time, Jiang Ming also looked at Li Chen and asked in a deep voice. The one in the middle of the cliff, you see, the lavender stone is different from the other stones on the cliff. Li Chen chuckled and pointed to the cliff. When Yi Tian heard the words, he followed his reputation. As soon as he could see, there was a piece of purple stone in the middle of the cliff. It was translucent. Under the sun, there was a little radiance. It's really purple stone gall. When he saw the stone, Yi Tian was very happy. The shape of the stone is exactly the same as the purple stone gall he got in Fangsu and Lingyu. You are lucky enough to find such a rare treasure as purple stone gall in such a humble place. At the same time, Jiang Ming also saw purple stone gall. The color of vigilance on his face disappeared. Looking at Li Chen, said with a smile. I came to this mountain forest last time to look for 7-star crabapple, but I found it by accident. Li Chen smiles with a brilliant look and seems to be very proud of his good fortune. Woof! But just as they were talking, along a dark cave at the bottom of the cliff, a voice similar to the barking of a dog, but more low and fierce, suddenly came out.
Wu Wolf then, a fierce beast, 2 meters long and 1 meter 3 or 4 high, with long golden hair, similar to a dog in appearance, but with a long mane like a lion on its neck, came out of the cave, showing its sharp white canine teeth like a small dagger, and made a low threat to Jiang Ming and Li Chen. Golden fur. This guy, what a strength! Jiang Ming sees this fierce beast, immediately the vision one stagnates, lose voice to exclaim away. As far as he was concerned, the golden fur gave off a breath comparable to the top of the prefecture level. Even when he was swept by his golden eyes, he felt cold all over. Wu Wolf at this time, Jin Maoyao looked at the location of Jiang Ming and Li Chen, and gave out a low roar full of threat. That tone, as if to warn two people, don't wishful thinking, otherwise, is a dead end. Bang! Just when Tian wants to see how Jiang Ming and Li Chen plan to deal with the golden mongrel, he suddenly sees that Li Chen quietly steps back, then suddenly raises his hand and pushes Jiang Ming's back. Jiang Ming was attracted by Jin Maoyao, and his attention was distracted. He didn't notice Li Chen's action at all. Li Chen tried his best again. Before he could react, he staggered forward and rushed to Jin Maoyao. This guy named Li Chen is so cruel and vicious. When Tian saw this, he couldn't help looking. This scene, not to mention Jiang Ming, even he did not expect that Li Chen, who seemed to be an open and above-board guy, was so vicious. Wu Wolf seeing someone approaching, Jin Maoyao roared and jumped up from the ground. He opened his mouth and bit Jiang Ming's neck. That Mori ran canine teeth, straight people feel that once bitten, the neck will be bitten to wear. Li Chen, what are you doing? Without thinking about it, Jiang Ming quickly retreated and dodged. At the same time, he yelled angrily to Li Chen, who had already run to the distance. Brother Jiang, there's only one piece of purple stone gall, but you and I have 2 people. You say that even if we work together to kill this golden mongrel, how should we distribute it? You brother, help me today. Help me stop this golden mongrel. Don't worry. I'll burn paper for you next year. Li Chen sneers twice, then climbs the stone wall with both hands, and climbs to the position of purple stone gall. Li Chen, you little man. Jiang Ming roars angrily and wants to give a hand to Li Chen, but at this time, Jin Maoyao has rushed to him. He had no choice but to fight with all his strength and hit him hard on the neck. However, the intelligence of this golden mongoose was far beyond his expectation. When he saw his fist hit, his body turned very slippery in mid-air, and then the long tail behind him entangled Jiang Ming's arm. After that, its claw was pulled forward, and it hit Jiang Ming's chest. Jin Maoyao was originally a fierce beast with rough skin and thick flesh and amazing brute force. This Jin Maoyao's cultivation is even more comparable to the peak of the prefecture level. His strength is extremely amazing. In one hit, Jiang Ming's chest immediately appeared a claw-shaped bloodstain, and his body flew upside down and fell heavily on the ground. After a successful attack, Jin Maoyao jumped up and rushed to Jiang Ming, who fell to the ground. Brother Jiang, your strength is too poor. You can't even compare with a little dog. It seems that my plan is not wrong at all. Your strength is really only for feeding dogs. At the same time, Li Chen was about to climb to the position of purple stone gall. He looked down and said with a mocking smile. Li Chen, even if I am a ghost, I will never let you go. Jiang Ming wants to dodge, but when he sees that Jin Maoyao has rushed to his body, he can even smell the strong smell coming out of his mouth. Knowing that the end of his dog kiss is doomed, he can only close his eyes and roar. Haha, I Li Chen never walk at night. I'm not afraid of ghosts, and I'm not afraid of a coward who was bitten to death by a dog. When Li Chen heard the speech, he didn't even look back. He continued to climb to the position of purple stone gall and sneered. In his mind, with the ability of that prefecture-level golden hair, Jiang Ming will definitely die. Ha! But at this moment, he suddenly heard, along the cliff below, the golden hair was suddenly trampled on the feet like, shrill hum voice. What happened? Can Jiang Ming's strength hurt Jin Maoyao? This strange sound made Li Chen's heart sink suddenly. He had a kind of bad premonition and turned to the cliff in a hurry. Who are you? A glance, Li Chen immediately see, at this moment, in front of Jiang Ming's body, actually standing a young man. What's more, it's even more incredible that the young man just punched the top golden mongrel of the prefecture level and flew out,
limping to the ground, groaning and hawing. After struggling for several times, he couldn't get up. This strike forced back the young man of Jin Maoyao.
Who could it be if it wasn't Yi Tian? I'm not dead.
At the same time, Jiang Ming heard the sound and found that there was no sharp pain in his neck from being bitten by Jin Maoyao. He quickly opened his eyes. When he saw a young man standing in front of him, and Jin Maoyao fell in the distance, he immediately felt a sense of ecstasy for the rest of his life.
I can't stand your despicable behavior.
At the same time, Yi Tian glanced at Li Chen on the cliff and said faintly, "It's understandable that practitioners are greedy for the elixir, but for the sake of the elixir, they are still so cruel to their companions.
This kind of person is more vicious than the fierce beast. It's really hard to see. This guy is very powerful. Get the purple stone gall and run away from the top of the cliff."
Hearing the sound, Li Chen's eyes leaped wildly. Without saying a word, he used both hands and feet to speed up and climb toward the position of purple stone gall.
Do you think you're a vile villain who is qualified to get the purple stone gall?
But Li Chen Gang climbed up less than a meter. Along his back, suddenly came the indifferent voice of Yi Tian. What's more, as Li Chen felt, the sound was so close that it sounded behind his ears.
Behind me, is the air, how can come this guy's voice?
Li Chen hears the sound, excites Ling Ling to hit shiver after, turn ahead to see immediately, Leaf Day is standing behind him smiling at the moment. This strange and incomparable scene made Li Chen's hands and feet soften, and almost no one fell off the cliff. You. After that, he swallowed a few mouthfuls of saliva, and then settled down.
He looked at Yi Tian.
When he saw that Yi Tian was stepping on a flying sword, he trembled and said in fear, "Imperial sword, the legendary Imperial sword."
Flying sword. There is such a thing in the world, it's not just Li Chen. Jiang Ming looks at Yi Tian, whose sword is suspended in the air. He is also crazy. He can't believe it and mumbles.
Among the mountain people, there is a saying that as long as the cultivation is deep enough, you can fly the blade. But this is just a legend.
No one has ever seen anyone who can really fly with a sword.
Even, many people feel that the so-called flying sword is just a kind of longing for people with advanced cultivation. In fact, it does not exist. But today's scene makes Li Chen and Jiang Ming discover that in this world, there are really strong people who can fly with their swords.
Get out of here.
At this time, Yi Tian is indifferent to put out a hand, toward Li Chen's shoulder gently pulled.
Dawn.
As soon as his hand fell, Li Chen felt as if he had a heavy load on his shoulder. As soon as his body sank, he rolled down the stone wall uncontrollably and hit the ground heavily, breaking his head and bleeding. It's really purple stone gall. At this time, Yi Tian's sword rose, reached out to pick out the purple stone gall in the stone wall, and then fell to the ground.
He looked at Li Chen with a funny smile and said, "Li Chen, do you think you can't burn paper for others next year?" "Forgive me, master. I know I'm wrong. I swear I won't dare to do it again."
Hearing this, Li Chen struggles to kneel down and kowtows to Yi Tian. At the same time, he raises his hand, bows left and right, and blows madly on his cheek.
Yi Tian looks at Li Chen's appearance, sneers repeatedly, turns to look at Jiang Ming. "Light Wei, how do you plan to deal with him?" Yi Tian has seen too many people like Li Chen.
This kind of person, in order to cultivate himself and live by all means, seems to be repenting now, but in fact, it's just for survival.
Once today is over, he will continue to do harm to others as he should.
However, this matter, he is not the victim, so he is too lazy to pay attention to how to deal with Li Chen. Instead, he gives Jiang Ming the decision-making power. "Brother Jiang, I just made that kind of mistake because I was blinded by lard. Please let me go. As long as you will spare me, I will be grateful to you for being a cow and a horse. If I disobey these words, I'll have to die." Hearing this, Li Chen turns around in a hurry and looks at Jiang Ming. He kowtows, slaps himself in the face and swears.
"Li Chen, do you think I've been cheated by you once, and I can be cheated by you again?"
It's a pity that Jiang Ming doesn't believe Li Chen's lies now. After a sneer, he turns to look at Yi Tian, bows to the ground and says in a deep voice, "Master, please abolish his cultivation." On hearing this, Li Chen shuddered, grabbed a handful of dust on the ground with both hands, threw it to Yi Tian and Jiang Ming, and then turned around and ran to the side of the valley.
Do you think you can escape in front of me?
When Tian sees this, he smiles indifferently and shakes his feet slightly. Then he appears beside Li Chen. Then he takes a slap lightly and falls on Li Chen's elixir field, abandoning his cultivation.
You have ruined my cultivation. Even if I were a ghost, I would not let you go. Li Chen feels that his whole body's cultivation is disappearing quickly like flowing water. He looks at Tian with a ferocious expression and curses him.
I'm sorry, I'm never afraid of ghosts, and I'm not afraid of a midterm ghost at the prefecture level. With a faint smile, Tian changed what Li Chen had just said and gave it back to him. Li Chen, you always say that I'm suspicious, but now it seems that my suspicion is nothing compared with your viciousness. At the same time, Jiang Ming walked up to Li Chen, looked at him with a cold smile, and then said, Don't you want me to die in the mouth of Jin Maoyao? Today, I'll give it back to you as it is. Click. Click. When the words fall, Jiang Ming coldly breaks Li Chen's hands and feet. Then he throws the goods, which are howling and screaming because of the pain, to the place where he has already struggled to stand up from the ground, but because he is afraid of Tian's power, he only dares to hold his tail and hide in front of Jin Maoyao in the distance.
Jiang Ming, you have to die.
Li Chen looked at Jin Maoyao's golden eyes full of wild hope. His heart was cold and he cried out in horror. Woof! But before he can say a word, Jin Maoyan looks at Tian and sees that Tian doesn't seem to want to save this guy.
He jumps out of his body and bites Li Chen's neck.
Then he twists his head and tears his neck. Tian looked at the bloody scene, frowned slightly, turned and walked out of the valley. Jiang Ming sees this and follows Tian in a hurry.
Thank you for saving my life.
I'll never forget it. After walking out of the valley, Jiang Ming kneels down behind Tian and kowtows a few times to him.
It's just a little effort.
Tian casually waved his hand, then looked at Jiang Ming, with some curiosity in his eyes, and said, Just on the way here, how did you find me?
It's just you. Jiang Ming hears the news and looks at Tian in amazement.
After being stunned, he answers respectfully, Elder, you don't know something about it. My secret cultivation method is quite special. I'm involved in divinity, so my ability of induction is better than others.
So it is. Tian nodded slightly.
As soon as he was on the road, he guessed that Jiang Ming should be involved in the divine thoughts. Otherwise, with his cultivation level, he could not detect his tracking.
You have a good perception, but it's a pity that you are not good at meeting people.
If you want to improve your cultivation and find some reliable partners, you can go home and explain to them.
Then you can go to the Qin family in Jiangnan and find Li Dazhuang in Fangzhong.
It's Tian who arranged you to help me protect a person with them.
As long as you do well, I won't treat you badly. Tian doesn't have the intention to explore Jiang Ming's secret method.
After looking at him, he stretches out an olive branch. Although the strength of Li Dazhuang and Fangzhong is okay, their mind is too weak and their ability to detect danger is relatively weak. Jiang Ming can fill the gap between them. In this way, with the protection of 3 people, even if he was not in Jiangnan, Qin Luoshan would not encounter any danger.
The elder gave me my life, but I was sent by him.
Jiang Ming smells speech, quickly toward Tian respectfully kowtow a few ring head, and faces full of joy. To be able to help a strong man who can fly with his sword is not an opportunity for all mountain people. He believes that as long as Yi Tianzhan shows his skill, there are some people on the mountain who are higher than his own cultivation. And this purple stone gall, I want to use.
I can't give it to you.
Yi Tian nodded at will, and then said to Jiang Ming faintly.
You can use it. Don't worry about me.
Jiang Ming quickly waved his hand and said respectfully.
Today, if there is no Yi Tian, he can't even survive.
How can he use purple stone gall? Yi Tian chuckled and shook the fist-sized purple stone gall in his palm. Then he made a crack in the corner of it with 5 fingers. In a flash, a purple liquid with strong medicine fragrance slowly trickled out. This liquid, fragrant, very attractive, let a person want to drink. Jiang Ming can't help swallowing his saliva, but he doesn't dare to act rashly for fear that Yi Tian mistakenly thinks that he still has a wrong idea about purple stone gall.
Yi Tian raises the purple stone ball, shakes it hard, and drops it on his eyes.
Soon, he felt that his eyes were cool, followed by a little tingling. Immediately, when he looked inside, he found that there were mysterious veins in the depths of his pupils, slowly emerging, such as some mysterious transformation of these eyes. Without thinking, Yi Tian sits on the ground with his knees crossed and begins to digest the strange effect of Shi Dan Yi. More than 10 minutes later, Yi Tian suddenly opened his eyes. In an instant, along his eyes, there seemed to be a flash of lightning, and a pair of pupils became very bright. For a moment, Yi Tian felt that the world in front of him seemed more vivid than before, and the whole world was much brighter and clearer. That kind of feeling is like a person who has been short-sighted for a long time, but has not worn glasses, suddenly put on a pair of glasses that just fit with the degree. In this world, every plant, every stone, every flower, every mountain and everything has become different, vivid and full of spirituality. It seems that we can even see the scene of spirituality wandering around them. When he looked far away, he found that his eyesight was more than 10 times as far away as before. The eagle falcon hovering in the far sky, and the snake, insect, mouse and ant scurrying in the grass, seem to move more slowly and have a clear track to catch. This is the source of heaven's eye. After biochemistry, there are various miracles. In this way, the speed of the movements of the creatures becomes slower, and the ability to capture the movement trajectory is equivalent to that you can predict the opponent's movements a few steps in advance, which can play an unimaginable huge role. Of course, the most important change lies in the perception of mountains and rivers, terrain and aura fluctuations. When the mana is infused into his eyes, Yi Tian can see that along the surrounding mountains, there are light cyan lines formed by the circulation of aura, interwoven with each other, forming a huge and harmonious cycle. Is this elder the god of heaven? Jiang Ming stared at Yi Tian's eyes, and his expression became more respectful. A bold guess appeared in his heart. Which of these means is not the only one possessed by the legendary Immortals? And find a kind of magic power that used to have in Feng Shui and spirit domain. Yi Tian's eyes scan the circulation route of aura, feeling gently in his heart, and the corners of his mouth are full of smiles. This trip to Merlin really brought him a lot. Let's go downtown. You can arrange your affairs and remember what I said to you. Of course, if you don't want to, it doesn't matter if you don't go. I won't force you after a long time. Yi Tian looked at Jiang Ming and said peacefully. Yuan Tianyan is extraordinary. He can not only see the circulation of aura, but also shine through everything. If he looks at Jiang Ming with Yuan Tianyan, Yi Tian is worried that he will not be able to eat for several days. It's an honor for me to be able to follow my predecessors. I'll go to the Qin family in Jiangnan as soon as I've finished my work. Jiang Ming shook his head and said respectfully. Yi Tian's various means are extraordinary and admirable. At the same time, he feels that if he can follow such a strong man, it will definitely bring a earth-shaking change to his way of cultivation. You are a wise man. With a smile, Yi Tian takes Jiang Ming to the railway station in the far city. Yi Tian bought a high-speed rail ticket to Jiangnan City, while Jiang Ming went back to his hometown to arrange for his family. Why is she here? But just as Yi Tian was sitting in the waiting hall, waiting for the high-speed railway, he suddenly saw that Mandala was also in the waiting hall, looking at the train timetable, and his brow was slightly wrinkled, which seemed to be a little anxious. This scene really surprised Yi Tian. You know, according to the previous arrangement, Mandala was working as a cleaning supervisor in Nanhai University. How could she not even say hello to herself and then go to other places? Is it the prisoner of heaven who went to the South China Sea and forced Mandala to ask for help? But in that case, Mandala should also go to Jiangnan City. How could it come to the present city? If it's just a coincidence, it's a bit of a coincidence. Seeing this, Yi Tian pressed down his doubts and went to the side of Mandala, patted her on the shoulder and said, "Why are you here? Who are you? What are you doing?" But to Yi Tian's surprise, when his palm fell, Mandala turned his head and glanced at him. He shook off his palm and stepped back. He watched him warily and coldly. "I'm Yi Tian, you don't know me?" Yi Tian was stunned and looked at the mandala again. Then he found that although the mandala looked very similar to the mandala, there were several small black spots in the corner of his eyes that the real mandala did not have. Obviously, this is not a mandala, but a person who looks very similar to her. I'm sorry, I mistook you for a friend of mine. You really look like her. Tian sees this, looking at Mandala in a hurry with an apologetic smile, explains. I've heard so much about this excuse. I'm not interested in you. Get out of my sight now. Mandala is indifferent, and looks at Tian with ridicule. The tone and manner obviously regard Tian as the person who uses the old saying to chat up. You understand wrong. I didn't mean to chat you up. I really know a girl who looks very similar to you. I don't know if your family has ever told you that you have a sister or a sister, but separated when you were very young? Tian shook his head with a bitter smile and looked at the Mandala. Mandala is not the kind of public face, and now that the girl and Mandala are so similar that even he can admit his mistake, Tian thinks that the girl and Mandala are likely to be twin sisters. Moreover, Tian remembers that Mandala once told him that she had been cultivated by heaven since she was a child and had no family. If the prisoner really abducted Mandala from the girl's home, it would be a very lucky thing for the girl who has experienced too much suffering to help Mandala find her family. This excuse is something new. Mandala glanced at Tian, his face was more taunting, and said coldly, but I can tell you clearly that I am an only child, and I have no sister at home. I've already answered your question. If you don't leave again, I'll call the police and sue you for harassment. I really mean no harm. Tian was helpless and said slowly, I really know a girl who looks very similar to you, almost carved in a mold. She was abducted from her home when she was a child. I suspect you are sisters. The story is more and more complete. Mandala sneered at Tian and said coldly, since you say so, show me the girl's picture and let me see how similar we look. Tian felt out his mobile phone, but before unlocking it, he burst into a bitter smile. He has never been in the habit of taking photos for others. There are no Mandala photos in his mobile phone photo album. I can't get the picture, can I? Please don't fool people with this method that even a 3-year-old knows. Mandala disdain a smile, a face has long guessed that it will be such an expression, coldly way, immediately disappear from my eyes. Well, I'll give her a call and ask her to make a video with me. You can see it. Tian helplessly shakes his head, and then calls out the Mandala number, ready to dial in. Ching-yi? What's the matter? Are you being harassed? But at this time, a young man came over from afar in a hurry, and then looked at Tian with bad eyes, and said in a deep voice, Boy, I warn you, stay away from Ching-yi, otherwise, I'm not polite to you. Do I look like that kind of villain who is plotting against others? Hearing this, Tian shakes his head, then picks up his mobile phone and continues to look for Mandala's number. Boy, you don't understand people, do you? Let you roll, you don't roll, also want to take a picture of Ching-yi, I see you are itchy skin. Young people see Tian holding a mobile phone scribbling there, face a cold, split hands toward Tian's mobile phone to grab. Go away. Tian sees this, eyebrows are wrinkly, hand lightly toward the young man's arm. Poop. Tian is now on the 5th floor of the cave. Even though he only used less than 1 point of strength, he is not what the young man can resist. At the moment, the young man stumbles back and sits on the ground. You. The young man sat down on the ground and pointed to Tian. He was in panic and anger. Tian didn't even look at him, but directly pressed the number of Mandala. But unfortunately, the phone rang a few times, but no one answered. This woman, busy what to go, should find her time, how can't find a person? Tian speechless hang up the phone, and then dial in the past, but still no one answered. Don't you think it's boring? I said, I'm not interested in you. Don't disturb me anymore. At this time, Ching-yi glanced at Tian, then looked at the young man who was sitting on the ground and said impatiently, Shen-mo, I don't have any interest in you. Please don't pester me anymore. Let me be quiet, okay? Ching-yi, I come to see you this time. It's not malicious. I know that you go home this time because your mother is ill and very ill. The hospital can't help it. It's the last time to accompany her. But a friend of mine told me that there is a famous doctor in Nanhai who can cure many difficult and miscellaneous diseases. I came to tell you that if you go to Nanhai to find him, maybe you can help. Hearing this, the young man looks down and looks at Qingyi sincerely.
Famous doctor of South China Sea?
The Leaf Day hears a sound, in the heart suddenly slightly move, this name, sound, how to make a person feel some familiar.
A famous doctor in the South China Sea who specializes in treating difficult and complicated diseases? What disease has he cured?
Because of her mother's illness, Qingyi is obviously very concerned about this aspect.
As soon as she hears this, she immediately looks to Chen Mo and asks.
Not only Qingyi, but Tian also raises his ears to hear whether Chen Mo's famous doctor in the South China Sea is the same person as his own guess. He awakened a vegetative person and cured a patient with advanced liver cancer.
Hearing this, Chen Mo looks at Tian with pride.
Then he looks at Qingyi with a sincere face and says, I've asked my friends from Nanhai to ask if I can ask him to come and help you. It's just that this famous doctor is highly respected and can't be invited.
Wake up the vegetable.
That's what happened to grandfather Ning Shui cure patients with advanced liver cancer.
Is to cure Shi Xiong's mother isn't this famous doctor from the South China Sea, who was famous in Chen Mo's mouth, me? Tian, listening to Chen Mo's words, can't help laughing.
He thought to himself that he was right about the saying of good medicine, but it was the first time that he heard it.
Qingyi, please believe that I really want to help you.
At this time, Chen Mo continues to look at Qingyi and sincerely repeats.
Hearing this, Qingyi looks at Chen Mo gratefully, and her heart moves.
If that famous doctor in the South China Sea can cure the patients with advanced liver cancer, maybe he can really cure his mother.
Is that famous doctor in the South China Sea named Tian?
But at this time, Tian suddenly looks at Chen Mo with a faint smile and says,
How do you know the name of Dr. Yi? Chen Mo hears the news and looks at Tian in surprise. He is a little alert and wary. Dr. Yi?
Tian smiles in amazement, and then immediately reacts that Chen Mo has only heard of the famous doctor in the South China Sea, and then habitually thinks that the doctor with such high medical skills must be a very old man, so he looks at him playfully and says with a light smile, I'm afraid you're wrong.
Tian, a famous doctor in the South China Sea, is not an old doctor. As far as I know, he is a 20-year-old young man. Do you know Dr. Yi? How dare you talk nonsense here? Chen Mo looks at Tian and sneers, disdaining the way. I don't need to know him. Tian smiles faintly.
When Chen Mo's face shows a mocking smile, the conversation turns and says faintly, because I'm the old doctor you said.
Tian, are you Tian?
Ha ha ha, stop teasing me, Chen Mo lang lang, and then pointed to Tian, laughing back and forth. Tian doesn't say a word, but looks at Qingyi with a smile. Qingyi stares at Tian, her eyes changing. She remembers that when Tian first saw her, she did say that her name was Tian. Chen Mugong just said the name of the famous doctor in the South China Sea. Therefore, Tian can't use this name to deceive himself.
But the famous doctor of South China Sea happened to be here. It's a coincidence. It's a bit of a coincidence.
What's more, how can such a young man have the advanced medical skills to cure patients with advanced liver cancer?
Here is my ID card. Have a look.
Tian is too lazy to talk with Chen Murphy so much. He takes out his ID card and delivers it to Qingyi.
Tian. Nanhai people. 20 years old.
Qingyi suspiciously took the ID card, swept a glance, look immediately stunned.
If the same name is just a coincidence, it's also from the South China Sea. Isn't it a coincidence?
What's more, the guy who uses the old saying "you look like a friend of mine" doesn't look like a famous doctor.
Qingyi, I think this guy is a liar. Don't be cheated by him.
Nanhai famous doctor has such high medical skills.
He must be a highly respected old doctor.
At his age, he can read several medical books.
When Chen Mo sees Qingyi's expression, he is immediately flustered. He looks at Qingyi and says in a loud voice.
Qingyi delicate brow twisted into a knot in one's heart, staring at Tian in doubt, unable to make a decision. Although Tian has the same name as a famous doctor in Nanhai, his age and previous performance do not look like a famous doctor. As for Chen Mo's objection, she also knows that this guy doesn't want Tian to be a famous doctor in the South China Sea.
You have a slight stomach problem, don't you?
But at this time, Yi Tian's eyes flashed an imperceptible golden on, looking at Qingyi and smiling. Boom! A language falls. Cleary feels a burst of violent roar of the head immediately, double eyes incredibly looking at Leaf Day. She does have stomach trouble, and it's very mild. That's because she often doesn't eat breakfast. But there are few people who know this. She can't believe it. Yi Tian can see it at a glance. If it's just a coincidence, Yi Tian's guess is too accurate. How do you know? After a long silence, Qingyi stares at Yi Tian and asks slowly. You don't believe I'm a famous doctor, so I have to prove it to you. Yi Tian shrugged at will and said with a smile. Yuan Tian Eye is very powerful. It can not only detect the changing track of aura and shine through all things, but also look at qi. Different colors of qi represent different degrees of human health. Qingyi's stomach is slightly black, but his whole body is healthy, so he thinks Qingyi has a slight stomach disease. Of course, when Yuan Tian displays his eyes, he sees not only the qi in color, but also some things he shouldn't see, such as a white body, 2 unreachable mountains and so on. However, in order to help Mandala find out the truth, Yi Tian has to say sorry to Qingyi in his heart. He is really a famous doctor in the South China Sea. How young you are! Qingyi stares at Yi Tian. At this moment, all doubts in her heart have disappeared. If Yi Tian is not the famous doctor in the South China Sea, how can he find his disease so easily? However, at this age, there is such a medical skill, which is really incredible. Even at this moment, she couldn't help suspecting that Yi was not chatting up before, but mistaking herself as a friend of his. But in the world, can there be people who are so similar that even friends can admit mistakes? Qingyi, don't believe him. Don't be cheated by him. This guy is a liar. Chen Mo looked at this scene, is completely silly, horse looking at Qingyi Road. At this moment, he is already going to regret his intestines. Originally, he moved out of Nanhai famous doctor, hoping to show Qingyi how much he cares about her. Now it's good. He actually killed a famous doctor in the South China Sea, which makes him totally stupid. Then tell me, if I'm a liar, how did I just see her illness? The Leaf Day hears speech, looking at silence ponder of light smile way. Chen Mo opened his mouth when he heard the news, but he couldn't say a word. In a word, Yi Tian broke Qingyi's condition. It's definitely not a simple trick. Moreover, even if Yi Tian is blind, it's too accurate. Thank you, Chen Mo. I appreciate your kindness. When my mother gets well, I'll treat you to dinner. At this time, Qingyi looks at Chen moping and says, Dr. Yi, can we talk in another place? May I tell you something about my mother's illness? Talk in another place. That's to get rid of yourself. When Chen Mo hears the sound, he wants to cry without tears. His heart has an impulse to shed blood. At this moment, he would like to slap himself in the face and push the person he likes into the hands of his rival. He is probably the only one in the world. Tell me about your mother. At this time, Yi Tian and Qingyi have come to a quiet corner. Yi Tian looks at her and calms down. My mother, she. Qingyi was silent for a moment, and said slowly, she used to be very healthy, but recently she suddenly became thin, and almost became skin and bone at the speed visible to the naked eye. The doctors have checked many items, but they have not found any reason for this disease. Suddenly lose weight, and can't find the disease. There are many reasons for this situation, Yi Tian knows, such as being maliciously planted in the body, or being attacked by some kind of panacea toxin, etc. But what kind of situation Qingyi's mother encountered, he can only confirm it when he sees the other person with his own eyes. When Yi Tian heard this, he frowned and said, Where is your home? In this case, if I can see the patient, I can determine the disease. It seems that he is not a liar. When Qingyi hears Yi Tian's words, she is slightly relieved. If he is a liar, if you hear her words, you will make a lot of nonsense, and then make a big promise that as long as you do it yourself, you will be able to make a comeback and so on. But now Yi Tian doesn't take everything into consideration. Instead, he is extremely pragmatic and says that only when he sees the patient can he give a definite answer, which is much more reassuring. I live in Jiangnan City. I wonder if you can come with me, Dr. Yi? If you are willing to go, I will certainly not treat you badly, such as the travel expenses, medical expenses and so on.
Qingyi hears the sound and immediately looks at Yi Tian praying for the way. Jiangnan City? Coincidentally, I'm going to Jiangnan City.
When Yi Tian hears the speech, he can't help laughing, and then hands the ticket to Qingyi.
You are sitting next to me. Qingyi takes Yi Tian's ticket and looks at it. She can't help exclaiming. It seems that it's really predestined. Yi Tian can't help laughing when he hears the news. It seems that even if there is no waiting hall, he will still meet Qingyi when he gets on the bus. Qingyi, don't believe him. This guy is a liar.
What I just said about famous doctors in the South China Sea is a liar. In fact, there is no such person.
At this time, Chen Mo sees Yi Tian and Qingyi chatting enthusiastically.
After biting his teeth, he rushes forward and looks at Qingyi and says in a loud voice.
Is Chen Mo deceiving himself? Hearing the words, Qingyi is stunned and looks at Yi Tian. In that case, your kidney disease should also be self-deception?
Yi Tian smiles quietly and looks at Chen Mo calmly.
What kidney disease? You're talking nonsense. Why don't I know I'm sick?
Chen Mo's expression suddenly becomes flustered. Looking at Yi Tian, he looks sharp and fierce.
Oh? Is that right? Yi Tian light smile, step forward. What do you want to do?
I'm warning you, don't mess around. When Chen Mo sees this, he points to Yi Tian and shouts out loud, then he is about to retreat. But his action, or have Yi Tian fast, haven't waited for him to step out. Yi Tian finger microstrip mana, toward his waist eye suddenly out.
In a flash, Chen Mo left, feeling that his waist was like an electric shock.
His kidney, which had been hollowed out by wine, was convulsed and contracted violently.
ZZZZ.
Immediately after that, a strong sense of urination suddenly swept his whole body, making his legs tremble uncontrollably, and then there was a strange sound between his legs, and then a large area of wet appeared between his legs and shoes. That strong smell, even though there is a distance, but still smoked. Qingyi covered his nose.
You. Chen Mo's eyes are wide open and his face is red. He wants to find a way to get in.
I advise you, although the wine and color are good, if you continue to toss about like this, your small kidney will be completely abandoned.
Yi Tian covers his nose and glances at Chen Mo casually.
Hearing this, Qingyi immediately looks at Chen Mo in disgust. She knew that Chen Mo had the habit of flirting, drinking and lusting, but she didn't expect that he had been hollowed out by wine and sex to such an amazing degree. And then she thought that she had been pursued by such a disgusting guy, which made her feel disgusted. Dear passengers, the high-speed railway to Jiangnan City is about to enter the station.
Please line up in order to enter the station.
And at this time, along the waiting hall, suddenly came the sound of radio.
Dr. Yi, our car is here. Let's go. Hearing the sound, Qingyi turns her head quickly and looks at Yi Tian. Yi Tian nodded and walked shoulder to shoulder with Qingyi towards the entrance. No.
Chen Mo looks at the picture of two people leaving side by side. He feels that his heart is stabbed by 10,000 knives at the same time. He feels that his legs shake and his body falls to the ground uncontrollably. You see, that guy is so grown up that he still sits in his own urine even though he pees his pants.
It's disgusting. What about the staff? How can you put this psycho in the station?
Seeing this, the passengers around him immediately pointed around him. Many more passengers started looking for the station staff to clean up the disgusting scene. Yi Tian and Qingyi naturally don't know what happens next in the waiting hall, and they don't know about Chen Mo either.
If you have any questions, you don't have to stammer.
After getting on the bus, Yi Tian sees Qingyi looking at himself, and then laughs.
Dr. Yi, you said that I look like a friend of yours. Is that true or not? Qingyi hears speech and asks awkwardly. It's true.
Yi Tian nodded and said, my friend is almost carved in the same mold as you, otherwise I won't admit it.
It's a pity that she may be busy now. She hasn't answered the phone call. However, did your mother really not tell you that you had a sister when you were a child, but was later carried away or abducted?
No. Qingyi stares at Yi Tian and feels that he doesn't seem to be lying, so she shakes her head.
Then it's really strange. Is there really a person who is not related by blood but looks very similar in this world?
The leaf day eyebrow tiny wrinkly, doubtfully shook to shake head after, murmur away.
Is it really that similar? Yi Tian's attitude also arouses Qingyi's doubts and curiosity. When my friend comes back, I'll let you two have a video. You can see it. Yi Tian nodded.
He believes that whether Mandala sees Qingyi or Qingyi sees Mandala, she will be shocked by each other's appearance. All the way speechless, more than 2 hours later, when the high-speed railway entered Jiangnan City, Yi Tian's mobile phone suddenly rang, showing the Mandala number.
I just had a meeting with the school cleaners. I talked a little more. What's the matter? As soon as the phone is connected, Mandala explains to Yi Tian with some embarrassment.
This female killer is addicted to being a leader. Now Yi Tian heard the sound, a burst of laughing and crying, said, "You send me a video, I'll show you something.
If you want to see someone, just say it. What excuse can you make?" Mandala really did not expect that Yi Tian would make such a request.
When he was stunned, his cheeks turned a little red and his heart beat faster.
He joked and said, "Wait a minute, I'll send it to you."
However, what Yi Tian didn't expect was that this wait lasted for more than 10 minutes, and then Mandala's video phone was sent.
"You pick it up."
Yi Tian didn't answer, but handed the mobile phone to Qingyi beside him and said with a smile.
After Qingyi was silent for a while, she pressed the answer button with some uneasiness. Yi Tian.
As soon as the video is connected, Qingyi immediately sees a girl in a small suit, just like a white-collar beauty. As like as two peas, she was shocked to see that the girl looked exactly like her. Even if they were not dressed differently, she could not help but have the illusion of looking in the mirror.
Originally, Yi naivete didn't cheat me. In this world, there are people who are so similar to me.
At this moment, Qingyi has been completely dull, staring at the girl in the video, shocked.
How can there be someone who looks so similar to me? It's not only Qingyi, Mandala also looks dull. The whole person is like being shocked.
Yi Tian suddenly demands that the uneasiness and doubts of the video disappear instantly.
There is only one voice left in his buzzing head. Who are you?
After a long time, the two people with big eyes and small eyes across the screen almost spoke in the same voice.
This strange scene, straight let people feel, this seems to be the same person, with the help of special effects to do the video. Who are you? Mandala and Qingyi, not only the two of them, but also the onlooker Yi Tian, feel that they are an illusion. I am.
After one word, Mandala and Qingyi speak in the same voice almost at the same time. But just say two words, two people stopped at the same time, waiting for each other to say identity.
First of all, my name is Mandala. I'm an orphan.
I'm 21 years old.
What's your name and how old are you? Seeing this, Mandala opens her mouth in a hurry.
After a deep voice, she looks at Qingyi nervously. They are so similar that they look like looking in a mirror, which makes Mandala feel that the relationship between her and Qingyi is absolutely extraordinary. This is of great significance to the Mandala, who always thinks that she is an orphan and hopes to find her relatives.
My name is Qingyi. I'm from Jiangnan City.
Like you, I'm 21 years old. After hearing Mandala's words, Qingyi was stunned for a long time and said slowly. After a word, Qingyi and Mandala fell into silence almost at the same time.
The same age, the same looks. All this shows one thing, that is, they are very likely to be twins. Have you heard from your family that you have a sister, or a sister?
After a long time, Mandala looks at Qingyi and looks forward to it. At this moment, she incomparably hopes that Qingyi can give herself a definite answer. In this way, her relationship with Qingyi becomes clear. Similarly, in this way, she will no longer be alone in this world, but also have a family.
Aye.
Looking at Mandala's look of expectation, Qingyi knew that Mandala had a strong expectation in her heart and didn't want to hurt her heart. But in the end, she shook her head and said, "I haven't heard my mother say such a thing." A word falls, Mandala's look immediately become dimmed down. Perhaps, she and Qingyi do have a strong blood relationship, even twin sisters, but if Qingyi doesn't know anything, it means that the family may have forgotten her now.
You've been talking about your mom, and your dad?
Seeing this, Yi Tian quickly digs off the topic and asks Qingyi.
I don't have a dad.
Cheng Qingyi shook her head and said slowly, Mom said that Dad died before I was born.
Dead.
Hearing this, Tian frowned and looked at Cheng Qingyi apologetically, saying, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to ask these questions.
It's okay.
After all these years, I didn't care. Cheng Qingyi waved her hand, then looked at the mandala and said, Don't worry.
When I get back to Jiangnan City and see my mother, I will tell her today's story.
Good.
Mandala nodded.
After a moment's silence, her face looked praying and said, Tian, I know you can hear me.
Can I ask for a leave, and now I'm going to Jiangnan City from Nanhai? She once promised Tian that she would stay in Nanhai and start a new life.
She worried that she would be upset if she left the South China Sea.
Is that true? Certainly. You start as soon as possible.
When you get to Jiangnan City, I'll pick you up.
Tian hears the words and thinks about the cableway.
Although he hoped Mandala could start a new life in the South China Sea before, it does not mean that he is a rigid, inflexible person. Now, Mandala's life experience is expected to come to light.
How can he let Mandala stay in the South China Sea when he finds his family?
Good.
Mandala thanks a word, and then quickly hang up the phone, obviously busy to buy tickets to Jiangnan City or air tickets. Originally, there are people who are so similar to me in the world.
Cheng Qingyi takes the mobile phone, lang for a long time, hands the mobile phone to Tian, and then uses a dreamlike language. She thought that Tian's words were intended to accost her, but now it seems that she really thinks too much, and Tian's words are the truth.
Maybe you two don't just look alike.
Tian takes over the mobile phone and smiles at Cheng Qingyi. Cheng Qingyi is stunned, suddenly a little nervous, but inexplicably has some expectations. She always thought that in this world, only her mother and daughter depend on each other, but now, the appearance of Mandala makes her feel that she may have a sister in this world. In this case, she and her mother are not alone in this world.
Tian looks at Cheng Qingyi and laughs twice, saying nothing more.
But all of a sudden, he suddenly thought of a trivial matter. Now in retrospect, when I just opened the video, the mandala seemed to have been made up. In his impression, mandala usually does not seem to like makeup, our plain face, how suddenly began to make up.
Moreover, it seems that there is a long time between calling and opening video. Did mandala make up for the video?
However, at the beginning, she didn't know how to make a video with Cheng Qingyi. She just thought it was with herself.
Isn't the makeup she painted?
Although Tian doesn't understand the girl's heart, he has heard the saying that a man dies for his confidant, and a woman looks for her to please himself. Is mandala to himself read here? Tian's heart suddenly moved, came up with an idea.
No way. How can mandala like themselves? It must be a coincidence.
But soon, Tian immediately shook his head and put the idea behind him. 10 minutes later, a high-speed railway slowly stops at Jiangnan East Station. After getting off the bus, Tian and Cheng Qingyi call Qin Luoshan and ask about the situation of the Qin family. After confirming that King Mingzong has not sent any more people to come, they tell her that they have something to do and will not return to the Qin family for the time being. They ask her to contact them by phone if she has something to do. After hanging up, Tian and Cheng Qingyi took a taxi to Jiangnan People's Hospital. After inquiring at the front desk of the inpatient department, they found Cheng Qingyi's mother Cheng Su's ward.
How thin! As soon as he walked into the ward and saw the middle-aged woman lying on the bed, Tian couldn't help but gasp.
The middle-aged woman, pale and skinny, had taken off her face. She was lying there like a skeleton. However, although the middle-aged woman's body is thin, it can be seen only from her facial features that when she is healthy, she should be a woman with great charm, which is similar to Cheng Qingyi and mandala.
Ma! When Cheng Qingyi saw the woman on the bed, she ran quickly and held the woman's hand tightly.
Tears rolled down her pretty cheek like a broken line. Just for a moment, she made the sheets wet.
Qingyi, you're back. Hearing Cheng Qingyi's voice, Cheng Su slowly opens her eyes.
After a hard look at Cheng Qingyi, she smiles and says slowly.
However, her voice is as low as a gnat, as airy as a gossamer, as if a gust of wind can disperse it. You should have told me earlier. Why did you tell me now?
Cheng Qingyi wipes her tears hard, looks at Cheng Su and sobs.
Mom knows, Mom is going to die.
Instead of saying so much, Chengsu raised her hand and gently put it on Cheng Qingyi's cheek, and said, Qingyi, before I left, my mother told you two things that I had concealed from you for most of my life. The first thing is that your father is not dead, he just left us, so in my opinion, he is dead. The second thing is that you still have a twin sister, but I've lost her. If one day you meet someone who looks very similar to you, help me, and tell her, and then say Mom is sorry for her. Good guy, these two news are really hot. Yi Tian hears the sound, his eyes stagnate, and he can't help losing his mind. Boom! But Cheng Qingyi hears the sound, only feels like there is a thunder in his mind, the whole person is confused. There is a twin sister, because she saw mandala, she didn't feel so shocked, but from small to large, her father, who had been thought dead by her, was not dead, which really made her in a mess. My father didn't die, and I had another sister. Cheng Qingyi's head is in a mess, and her body can't help shaking. If she had not heard these things from her mother, she would never have believed it was true. I'm sorry, I'm just telling you this now. Chengsu gently pressed her palm against Cheng Qingyi's cheek and said, Mom was going to hide it from you for the rest of her life, but I'm afraid I can't hold it any longer. I'm afraid you'll feel like you're the only one in the world. Chengsu's words didn't finish, but the meaning was very obvious. She was worried that after her death, Cheng Qingyi, who was used to her mother and daughter's dependence on each other, felt that she was too lonely in this world. So she told Cheng Qingyi these words to let her know that she was not alone in this world, so that she could have hope. Mom, don't be silly. You'll be fine. I've invited a miracle doctor to help you. Besides, I have good news for you. Hearing this, Cheng Qingyi shook her head quickly, and then said slowly, I have found my sister on the way back. She is on the way to Jiangnan. You can see her this evening or tomorrow when she should be in Jiangnan. You found Yue-chan? A language falls. Chengsu, originally dim eyes, suddenly have fine on exposed, tightly grasped Cheng Qingyi's hand, dare not put channel. Yue-chan. Mandala is a good name. Yi Tian was stunned when he heard these two words, but he realized that the so-called Yue-chan is another name of mandala. Qingyi and Yue-chan are both beautiful and dreamy. One is the ripples of the clear spring, and the other is Chanwan in the moon palace. Just from the name, we can see that Chengsu has great expectations for the two girls. Yes, as like as two peas, I found her sister. It was Yeshan's help for me. I had video with her. My sister is very good now. She looks exactly the same as me. She is now on the way to Jiangnan. Soon, you can see her. Cheng Qingyi nodded and affirmed. I found Yue-chan. My Yue-chan is coming back. Chengsu looks at Cheng Qingyi's expression and feels that she doesn't cheat herself. Instead, she tells the truth. Her eyes show a touch of ecstasy and uneasiness. She murmurs incessantly, and there are turbid tears running down the corner of her eyes. But a word has not finished. Chengsu's eyes, but suddenly closed up, originally close to Cheng Qingyi's cheek hand, also unable to slide. Ma! This sudden scene scared Cheng Qingyi a jump, nervous call repeatedly, for fear of Chengsu. What accident? Don't worry, she's just weak, she's in a mood of ups and downs, she's passed out, it's okay. Seeing this, Yi Tian quickly walks over, opens Yuan Tian's eyes, and looks at Chengsu's head. After confirming the vitality, he comforts Cheng Qingyi. Cheng Qingyi hears the sound, this just slightly relieved one breath. You go to one side first, and I'll help her with it. Next, Yi Tian sinks to Cheng Qingyi. Hearing the sound, Cheng Qingyi quickly gets up and walks to one side, nervously looking at Yi Tian. Yi Tian raises her hand and puts it on Chengsu's pulse gate. Then she points out a wisp of magic and carefully enters Chengsu's body to help her regulate her body, nourish her vitality and stabilize her mind. Why is she so dead? While crossing into the mana, Yi Tian's Yuan Tian eye slowly schemes Chengsu's arms and legs, and then his brow turns into a big knot in one's heart. The result of Yuan Tian's illumination makes him find that Chengsu's present situation is not that she has been poisoned or poisoned, but that she is more likely to be disturbed by the field. Dr. Yi, what's wrong with my mother? At the same time, Cheng Qingyi looks at Yi Tian's frown, his heart shrinks into a ball, nervous. Has she been anywhere lately? Yi Tian hears the speech, turns to look at Cheng Qingyi, inquires. When I called her some time ago, she did go out once, but she just went out for 2 days and came back, but she didn't tell me where she was going.
Cheng Qingyi pondered for a while and said, I'm sorry. Sure enough,
it should be during the time when Chang Su went out that she entered into a vicious field which was full of vitality. As a result, the strength of the field remained in her body, depriving her of her vitality a little bit, and making her become a skinny and angry situation.
Yi Tianwen's speech, slightly nodded, completely determined his heart guess. It's just that the field is extremely complicated.
Although Yi Tian is active in the Sky Eye, she still lacks the array disk. It's hard to judge what kind of field she is affected by just by the qi in Chang Su's body. The only way is to let Chang Su tell her where she has been when she wakes up.
Who?
At this time, under the moistening of Yi Tian's mana, Chang Su slowly opens his eyes and spits out a mouthful of turbid qi. His originally gloomy eyes, nourished by the mana, now look more beautiful.
Qingyi, have you really seen Yuechan?
After waking up, Chang Su looks at Cheng Qingyi again and asks nervously.
Well, Dr. Yi helped me find my sister. She's on her way here. Cheng Qingyi nodded her head and made sure. Dr. Yi, thank you. Do you have a picture of Yuechan? Can I have a look?
Hearing this, Chang Su turns his head and looks at Yi Tian. His eyes are full of hope. I don't have a picture of her on me, but she's on her way here.
You can rest assured and see her soon.
Yi Tian shook his head with a smile and said slowly. Chang Su couldn't help feeling lost, but he nodded, covered his eyes with mist, and murmured, I thought I couldn't find it for so many years, but I didn't expect to see the child again before I left.
Have you looked for her? Yi Tian hears the speech and doubts. Cheng Qingyi said that he didn't hear Chang Su mention mandala.
He thought Chang Su hadn't looked for mandala, but now he heard Chang Su's words. The truth is obviously not so. I've been looking for her for 3 years. In those 3 years, I've been to many places with Qingyi in my arms, but I haven't found any information about her. I lost her in Jiangnan, so I came here to live. I think if she grows up in the future, if she comes to Jiangnan, maybe I can see her.
Chang Su nodded and murmured. Cheng Qingyi smell speech, sorry to see Yi Tian one eye.
At the moment, Chang Su's words make her remember vaguely that when she was 2 or 3 years old, her mother did take her to many places. But before, Yi Tian asked too suddenly, and this memory is too far away, but she ignored these details. Who the leaf day smell speech, slightly relaxed tone. He was just thinking that Chang Su's face didn't look like a mother who lost her child and didn't even look for her.
In that case, mandala would be too sad. But now it seems that I think too much.
And when you think about it, it's not easy for Chang Su, who was a single mother, to take Cheng Qingyi to find mandala for 3 years.
Where have you been lately? Next, Yi Tian looks at Chang Su and asks in a deep voice. I.
When Chang Su heard Yi Tian's words, his eyes immediately became hesitant, and his words faltered. That way, it seems that Chang Su was not willing to let Yi Tian know where he went last time.
Yi Tian, do you mean that my mother's illness has something to do with where she went before?
After hearing Yi Tian ask this question twice in succession, Cheng Qingyi immediately detects some unusual taste with her keen sense of smell.
Yes.
Yi Tian nodded, looked at Cheng Qingyi and Chang Su, and said, according to my judgment, she should have been harassed by a kind of power when she was looking for someone, so that led to the present situation. No way, it's absolutely impossible, but at this time, Chang Su's face suddenly changed. He shook his head and said, I can't be an accident because of that trip.
Chang Su is so nervous.
Did she go out to see? Yi Tian looks at Chang Su's sudden change of expression and attitude. Suddenly, he moves slightly in his heart and has a kind of guess.
Mom, where did you go that time? Who did you meet? Cheng Qingyi looks at Chang Su's expression, and feels strange and nervous. No way, he won't hurt me, I've already done this. Why does he want to harm me?
Chang Su shakes his head, looks flustered, and constantly denies that he doesn't want to believe what Yi Tian says.
When you went out, you met Qingyi's father, didn't you?
Seeing this, Yi Tian looks into Chang Su's eyes and slowly says his guess.
Did you see him? Cheng Qingyi hears the speech and looks stunned.
Then she looks at Chang Su and says in a trembling voice.
Chang Su stares into Cheng Qingyi's eyes.
After a long time, he slowly nods and says, some time ago, he suddenly contacted me and said that he was in Jiangnan and wanted to meet me.
I wanted him to know about you, so I went to. Sure enough.
Yi Tian nods slightly at the sound. Only in this case, Chang Su would not believe that the situation she encountered at the moment was related to that trip. After all, the person she went to see was the man she once loved deeply, gave birth to 2 daughters for him, and gave them names full of beautiful expectations. Even if the times change, but think, so far did not find or rely on Chang Su, still have feelings for him. Mom, why are you so confused? Why do you want to see him, the irresponsible man who abandoned us? Why can't you treat him as dead, as you told me? Chang Qingyi is in a mess. She looks at Chang Su in a dazed way and asks after him. That man, who abandoned his mother and himself in those years, also indirectly led to his sister being taken away and mother and daughter being separated. But now, the man who hurt his mother so heartily in those days is not satisfied. He still has to continue to use treacherous means to harm his mother like this. Don't ask in the future, I won't have any relationship with him anymore. Chang Su's face was full of pain, shaking his head and murmuring. Is he a mountain man? At this time, Yi Tian looks at Chang Su and calms down. How do you know? Chang Su was stunned and looked at Yi Tian in amazement. He didn't dare to buy the channel. Mountain people? Chang Qingyi looks at Yi Tian and Chang Su in confusion. She doesn't understand what these 3 words mean. Let me have a guess. He traveled down the mountain and met you. Then you had 2 daughters and named them Qingyi and Yuechan. After the baby was born, he suddenly wanted to return to the mountain gate. He never came back. Not long ago, he came back to meet you again. Yi Tian doesn't explain anything to Chang Qingyi, but looks at Chang Su and continues. Chang Su's face was full of pain. After a long time, he shook his head and said slowly, that's about it. He said that he would go back to the mountain gate and find his master. He would take my 2 daughters and me back to the mountain gate and let us become mountain people like him. However, since then, he has never appeared, until not long ago. Yi Tian sighed and shook his head. This kind of thing, he also met a lot in the square-inch spirit field. Some sect monks went down the mountain to practice their mind. When they met a beautiful woman, they coveted her and formed a friendship between Qin and Jin. But after some love, the monk went back to the mountain to practice, left behind the infatuated woman and waited for a lifetime. There are countless examples of this, but few of them have become Taoist partners between religious monks and common women. The answer is very simple, because the sect friars think highly of themselves and think that they are immortal figures. In their eyes, people in the world are just mole ants playing with them. How can they pity a mole ant? What's more, monks have a very long life. It takes years or even decades to shut up or explore a secret place. But in the secular world, life is only 100 years. Some monks, when they appeared in seclusion, all the beauties of the old days were nothing but chicken skin and crane hair. Things were not human. What feelings were they talking about? Although the mountain people's accomplishments are not as good as those of the monks in the square-inch spiritual realm, they are in the same mood. As for Chang Su, it's just the heroine who unfortunately repeats this heartbreaking story. However, Chang Su's fate is more miserable than those other poor women. The people she likes not only abandoned her after she gave birth to 2 daughters for him, but also killed her quietly with the field after so many years. This level of evil is hardly worthy of human dignity. Smelly man. Smelly man. Damn it, why isn't he really dead? Chang Qingyi's face is pale with anger. She pinches her fingers tightly and scolds angrily. She originally thought that it was a very sad thing that her father died and her mother and daughter depended on each other. But now she found that, after knowing what her father had done, it was better to think that he was dead than to know that he was still alive. Chang Su listens to Chang Qingyi's scolding. Her face is pale and her lips are moving. She wants to say something, but she can't say a word. Just along the corner of her eyes, there are tears. She doesn't know whether she is feeling sad for Chang Qingyi or her own fate. Where did he ask you to meet? If I don't get to that place, there's no way to cure you. Yi Tian took a sympathetic look at Chang Su, sighed and said slowly. Listen to Feng Shui Pavilion. It's there that we met. After a long silence, Chang Su said a place name slowly. I'll go to that place, you stay in the hospital, accompany your mother, don't stimulate her mood, if you have anything, just call me. If Mandala arrives, I will bring her to the hospital. Yi Tian hears the sound and writes down the name. He gets up and looks at Cheng Qingyi. Dr. Yi, thank you. Cheng Qingyi looks at Yi Tian gratefully, and her voice chokes. Needless to say, Mandala and I are friends. I'm very happy that she can find family. Yi Tian smiles and shakes his head, then turns to walk out of the ward. Cheng Su stares at Yi Tian's back in a dazed way. Suddenly, his heart is sour and his eyes are full of tears. Why, some men are so unkind, vicious and cruel, and some men are as gentle and kind as Yi Tian. Ma, what's the matter with you? If you don't like to hear me scold him, I won't say it. Don't feel bad. Seeing this, Cheng Qingyi hurried over and held Cheng Su's hand tightly, nervous. Mom is not sad, Mom is happy. Cheng Su shook his head, took Cheng Qingyi's hand, and said, Mom was killed by that man all her life, but fortunately, my daughter didn't repeat my mistake and found a good boyfriend. Mom, please stop talking nonsense. Dr. Yi is not my boyfriend. When Cheng Qingyi heard this, she blushed, waved her hand and shook her head, and denied it. Then, she suddenly recalled her clearly well-dressed face when she was watching the video with Mandala, and said, he may be my sister's boyfriend. Yue-chan. Hearing the speech, Cheng Su murmured, and his eyes were confused, expectant, and uneasy. I haven't seen her for 21 years. She doesn't know what her lost daughter will look like now. And these years, how she came over, and whether she suffered countless grievances that she did not know. At the same time, after leaving the hospital, Yi Tian stopped a car and went straight to listen to Fengshui Pavilion. Listen to Fengshui Pavilion, it is a famous small scenic spot in Jiangnan City, and there is a beautiful love legend. Therefore, many young men and women like to walk around here, hoping to meet their true love partner who can accompany them for life. When Yi Tian arrives at the Fengshui Pavilion, Yuan Tianyan opens his eyes and looks around. He immediately follows the trace of aura and finds several pieces of jade with mottled blood in the corner below the pavilion. Sees the Yuan array. As soon as he saw these jade stones with blood in them, Yi Tian's eyes immediately stood in awe and murmured, once attacked by the array, the vitality will be taken away, and the strength of the field will be transferred to the blood relatives. He will continue to attack the Jedi array to deal with the lover who gave birth to his two daughters. This guy's heart is not only made of iron, but is simply made of arsenic. Seizing element array is an extremely vicious field array, and it is also a rare one in the field that can be attacked by blood relatives. Yi Tian didn't expect that Cheng Su's favored mountain man was so vicious that he not only wanted to kill Cheng Su, but also his own daughter. Tiger poison doesn't eat sun. This guy is more poisonous than tiger. If you find out what field it is, it's easy to treat, but you have to go back as soon as possible, otherwise, the power of the field will invade Cheng Qingyi, and it will be even more troublesome. Yi Tian frowned slightly. After putting away the jade, he was ready to return to the hospital. Ding-ling-ling, but at this time, Yi Tian's mobile phone is ring up, open to see, he saw, is the Mandala number. I have arrived at Nanhai City, where are you now? As soon as the phone was connected, there came the nervous voice of Mandala. Yi Tian hears the news and glances at the time. He finds that it's only 3 or 4 hours since he contacted Mandala. It can be seen that Mandala rushed to the airport as soon as she heard the news and arrived in Jiangnan City non-stop. Nanhai People's Hospital, I'll see you at the gate of the hospital. I'll wait for you there. In a word, Yi Tianyan hangs up the phone, stops a taxi, dials Cheng Qingyi's number and tells her not to enter the ward for the time being and to keep a distance from Cheng Su before going back. Soon, Yi Tian arrived at the gate of the hospital. After waiting for about 20 minutes, a taxi came whistling, and then Mandala came down from the car. Yi Tian, is that girl here too? As soon as Mandala saw Yi Tian, she hurried over and asked nervously. In the hospital, I'll take you there. Yi Tian nodded, and then said, not only she is here, but her mother is also here. Mom! When Mandala heard these two words, his heart suddenly shrank into a ball, and his 5 fingers were pinched together. At this moment, his face, which was used to seeing life and death, was full of nervousness and uneasiness that could not be concealed. The word mother is very simple for ordinary people, but it is extremely strange and far away for her over the past 21 years. She has always felt that she is alone in the world, but now, she may suddenly have another sister and mother. How can she not be happy? She is also a little nervous. She is afraid that she will just be happy. In addition to these, she had more doubts and grievances. She wanted to know why she was lost and sent to prison. Things in those days were very complicated. When you meet later, let's talk about it slowly. Moreover, Chang Su's situation is not very good now. Yi Tian saw Mandala's look and immediately understood her thoughts. With a warm voice, she was relieved. Mandala nodded and followed Yi Tian in a hurry, but every step was like stepping on a cloud. It was light, soft, and dreamy. A few minutes later, they came out of the ward. You are. As soon as Chung Chingy sees Mandala, she is stunned. She looks at Mandala and opens her mouth, but she can't say a word. Although she has seen the appearance of Mandala in the video, at this moment, they stand face to face, and the similarity is stronger. The same height, the same face, and almost the same figure, all of which are like looking in the mirror. It's not only Chang Chingy, but Mandala also mumbles. Staring at Chang Chingy, she can't say a word. Sister. After a long time, Chang Chingy looks at the Mandala and mumbles. Such a face, let her have been completely determined. Mandala is her sister, Chang Yuechan. Sister. This simple 2 words to the ear, call Mandala, feel like there is a sudden thunder in my mind. This kind of address is too strange for her. However, this simple word, when introduced into her ears, made her feel so close. Even, she felt her soul and blood, at this moment, were boiling, in a crazy shudder. Sister, mother is in the ward. Immediately after that, Chang Chingy wipes the corner of her eye, turns around and gives up the door of the ward and says to Mandala. Mom. Mandala murmured, and then, like a dream, walked toward the ward, trying to open the door and have a look at what the mother, who had imagined countless times in her dream and had imagined millions of times on the way, looked like. Wait a minute. Don't come in yet. But just at this time, Yi Tian saw this, suddenly stopped Mandala and said in a deep voice. What's the matter? Mandala was stunned and looked at Yi Tian Dao in doubt. Her body is infected by a strange force field, which will affect her blood relatives. I helped her solve the problem first, and then you go in. Otherwise, you will be in trouble. Yi Tianchengqing explained, and then said to Mandala, now that you have arrived, it's not bad for you and Chingy to wait outside for a while. Let her tell you something about that year. Mandala nodded hesitantly, then walked slowly to the bench at the door. She believes in Yi Tian, and she feels that she really needs to calm down and be ready. Sister. After standing in the same place for a while, Chung Chingy walked slowly to Mandala. After sitting down, she stretched out her hand to her, with joy and uneasiness in her eyes. She was afraid that Mandala would not hold her hand. Sister. When Mandala heard this, she was stunned for a moment, then suddenly a bright smile came out of her mouth and grasped Chung Chingy's hand tightly. 2 hands intertwined. For a moment, Mandala and Chung Chingy only feel that, inexplicably, their bodies seem to have a feeling of blood fusion. Some of the family, whether separated from the ends of the earth, across endless time, but after all, are cut constantly. At this time, Yi Tian has gone to the ward. Is Yuechan here? Why didn't she come in? She didn't want to see me? Seeing Yi Tian, Chang Su immediately looks at him nervously and asks with a worried face. She wants to come in to see you, but your situation is special. I need to help you solve the problem before she can come in. Otherwise, it's not good for her or Chingy. When Yi Tian hears the words, he smiles and comforts Chang Su. Then he says, it may hurt a little later. You have to be patient. As long as I can see Yuechan, I can bear the pain. Chang Su nodded hard, then grasped the sheet tightly. Compared with being able to see my daughter, a little pain is nothing? No matter how painful it is, can it be more painful than the pain of losing her daughter when she went through thousands of mountains and rivers, but couldn't find it? At the same time, Yi Tian hands a yang, quickly incomparable will that a few pieces of jade, such as containing blood, scattered in the bed around Chang Su, arranged to seize the yuan array. Come back next, Yi Tian Yuan's eye opens and shines through the field. Seeing that the duo yuan array has affected the field, he immediately pinches Injua with both hands and scolds Changsu. In a flash, along Changsu's body, immediately there are dark red gas engines suddenly fly out, toward the jade. These dark red gas engines are the field strength of seizing element array. The only way to cure the victims of the seizing element array is to reverse the seizing element array and strip the field power from the player. Fortunately, the mountain master thought that no one could help Changsu, so he didn't destroy the jade that arranged the array. Otherwise, Tian would have to look for the jade again, refine it again, and make the array. That would be a lot of trouble. It's just that the strength of the field has been connected with the vitality of the flesh and blood. Moreover, Cheng Suzhong has been seizing the strength of the field for a long time, so the tie between the strength of the field and the vitality of the flesh and blood is deeper. When he takes it out, he will have a very strong tearing force. Hiss. As soon as this terrible power appeared, Changsu suddenly squeezed the sheet with both hands. A low groan of pain came out from his mouth and nose. Along his forehead, a layer of sweat suddenly fell, and his face became even paler, as if he was dying. Hold on, just a little longer. Qingyi and Yuechan are still waiting to see you outside. Yi Tian sees this and immediately says to Cheng Su Chen. When stripping the field strength of the seizing element field array, it cannot be interfered by external forces, but can only rely on the individual will and vitality of the practitioners to resist. If Cheng Su can't hold on, all his previous achievements will be wasted. Well. Cheng Su snorted, and then held the sheet tightly, with a firm determination in his eyes. Having been separated from her daughter for 21 years, now she finally has the chance to reunite. She will never allow herself to lose the chance to meet each other because of unbearable pain. Mother's power is really the strongest power in the world. Even the most powerful Taoist art can't be compared with it. With Cheng Su's murmur, Yi Tian immediately feels that Cheng Su, just as inspired by some kind of stimulation, has burst out a new vitality, trying to cooperate with himself, stripping those field forces from his body. All this makes him feel tut-tut. Besides feeling, he was even more disappointed. When he came back to Earth from Fengsuan spiritual realm, he realized many wishes that could not be fulfilled in his previous life, but only one thing, he had no chance to fulfill again. That wish is to see your parents again. Unfortunately, it's too late for him to return to Earth, and his parents have died. Taemin. Thinking of this, Yi Tian can't help bursting out a murderous opportunity in his heart. If it was not for Taemin, how could his life have such a huge change, and how could he not even have the chance to see his parents? At that moment, he became more and more determined to destroy the idea of Taemin. If such hatred does not return, then he simply does not deserve to be a man. Fortunately, he is now on the 5th floor of the cave. As long as he gets a breakthrough again, when he reaches the 6th floor of the cave, it will be the time for Taemin to disappear from the world. Who? When Yi Tian's mind changes, he suddenly feels that the power of the field pulled out from Cheng Su's body suddenly loosens, and then a long sigh of relief comes to Cheng Su's ears. It's a success. Hearing this, Yi Tian sweeps the jade on the ground and sees the mottled blood on it. Now it's finished, and it's turned into a big red like a blood drop. After Cheng Su's face turns a little ruddy, he immediately breathes a sigh of relief. Well, you two can come in. Immediately after that, Yi Tian takes a move and puts away these pieces of jade. Then he opens the door of the ward and tells Cheng Qingyi and Mandala. Sister. Hearing this, Cheng Qingyi gets up in a hurry and holds Mandala's hand tightly. Although Mandala wants to enter the ward and have a look at her mother's appearance, she suddenly hears Yi Tian's words and looks hesitant. She looks at Yi Tian with some uneasiness. Go in. Yi Tian sees this and nods to her with a smile. When Mandala sees Yi Tian's expression, she feels that if she has a little confidence in her heart, she slowly gets up and asks Cheng Qingyi to lead her into the ward. Yi Tian quietly out of the ward, and then with the door. He knew that the mother and daughter, who had been separated for a long time, must now have endless words and emotions to vent. It would not be beautiful to have an outsider present. Sure enough, a moment later, along the ward, came the Mandala low sobs, as well as Cheng Su and Cheng Qingyi sobs. After a long time, Mandala and Cheng Qingyi came out of the ward. Mandala, with red eyes like rabbits, looked at Yi Tian with sincere gratitude and said, "Thank you." Without Yi Tian, she couldn't get rid of the prisoner and start a new life from scratch. Similarly, without Yi Tian, she would not have found her mother and sister in her life. Maybe, until she died, she would have thought that she was an orphan with no one to love. Moreover, without Yi Tian, even if she is lucky enough to find Chang Su, she can only watch Chang Su deprive her of all her life because of the field power of Yuan Array, and then be separated from her. "You're welcome." Yi Tian waved his hand with a light smile, then looked at the mandala and joked, "Should I continue to call you Mandala or Chang Yuechan?" "Call me Yuechan. I like the name." Mandala shyly smiled, and then some happy head, way. Mandala is just a code name for her, but Chang Yuechan is different. It's her mother's surname, and it's the name her mother gave her and her sister. The short 3 words represent a completely different life from her in the past. "Well, I'll call you Yuechan later." Yi Tian smiles and nods, indicating that he will change his words to Mandala from now on. Mandala, no, hearing the sound, Chang Yuechan's 2 slightly red eyes all narrowed into crescent moon. At this moment, she felt that she was the happiest person in the world. "Dr. Yi, thank you." Cheng Qingyi looks at Chang Yuechan's happy appearance, and a smile is on her face. After thanking Yi Tiandao, she says to Yi Tiandao, "I know you have great powers. You should not be an ordinary person. Have you ever heard of Tianxinzong?" Chang Yuechan hears the sound and nervously looks at Yi Tian to get the answer. "The people who abandoned your mother and daughter were from Tianxinzong?" Yi Tian saw this, immediately responded to come over, then inquired. "Yes. Not long after his mother gave birth, he left us and went back to Tianxinzong. From then on, he never appeared again. And it was because of his leaving that his mother was in a big mess, which led to others taking her sister away from the hospital." Cheng Qingyi nodded heavily, then clenched her fist and said indignantly, "If it wasn't for him, our mother and daughter wouldn't have been separated for such a long time, and my mother wouldn't have such a thing this time. Yi Tian, if you know Tianxinzong, please tell me." Not only Cheng Qingyi, but also Chang Yuechan inquired in a deep voice. When she uttered her words, her eyes flickered, making people feel that for a moment, it seemed that Mandala, the killer of prison, had come back. Tianxinzong, who abandons her mother from beginning to end, keeps her mother and daughter from reuniting for 21 years. Facing such a person, Chang Yuechan knows that the mountain people are very powerful, but she also wants to do her best to revenge. As for that person is their father's question, Chang Yuechan has not considered at all. A man who forsakes his mother and sisters and murders his mother is not worthy to be their father. I know Tianxinzong, and you two can rest assured that if I guess correctly, that guy should come to the hospital soon. We just have to wait here and wait for the hare. The Leaf Day hears speech, lightly smile slowly way. The evil of Yuan seizing a ray is not only that the field strength can infect the blood relatives, but also that after the death of the master, a seed will be produced in the body. Although this kind of thing is vicious, it has the effect of prolonging longevity. Moreover, the younger the surgeon is, the higher the seed quality will be, and the longer it will nourish Shoyuan. Yi Tian believes that since the man of Tianxinzong has been so cruel that he can fight Cheng Su, he will never miss the seed left after Cheng Su's death. Moreover, when he just pulled out the field power for Cheng Su, he found that if he didn't arrive in time, Cheng Su's death should be within 3 days. At this point in time, the person of Tianxinzong may appear at any time. When he comes, I will kill him. Hearing this, Chang Yuechan clenched her 5 fingers and was full of murders. Hearing this, Cheng Qingyi feels relieved, but she is still frightened by the murderous spirit in her words. She says in her heart that Yuechan's elder sister is not a cleaning supervisor in the university. It is said that people working in the school should be very scholarly. How can murderous spirit be so heavy? I agree with revenge. Such people should be killed, and I will stay and help you. Yi Tian nodded with a light smile. Without waiting for Chang Yuechan and Cheng Qingyi to thank him, he waved his hand and interrupted them. Then he said, "It's just that your sisters want to take revenge. Did you tell your mother?" Chang Yuechan and Cheng Qingyi look at each other at the sound, and the words immediately become a bit hesitant. The man who killed Tianxinzong was just their sister's plan.
He didn't tell Chang Su. And think of Chang Su after 21 years, that guy suddenly appeared to contact her, she was happy to go to the appointment, you can imagine how deep her heart to that person's love is. If they tell Chang Su that they want to kill the man, Chang Su will not agree. Well, you can tell her that the person may come to the hospital in the near future, but you need her to promise you a condition before you can promise to let them meet again. Tian sees this and laughs, then looks at Chang Yuechan and Chang Qingyi and says an arrangement with a smile. Well, that's it. Chang Yuechan and Chang Qingyi look at each other and nod without thinking. Tian's method is indeed the best way to let Chang Su see the real face of that person. If, at that time, everything happens as they expected, no matter how much love Chang Su has for her, it will dissipate. Immediately after that, they return to the ward. After talking with Chang Su, they walk out of the ward and nod to Tian, indicating that Chang Su agrees with their sister's request. Mother and daughter haven't reunited for a long time. Now they are together again. Naturally, there are endless words. Tian did not leave, but stayed outside the ward, waiting for the arrival of Tianxinzong. In the interval of waiting, Tian learns from Chang Yuechan that the man Chang Su once fell in love with was Chen Qiming. 20 years ago, it seemed that he was from Tianxinzong. If he got 3 seeds, his dream would have a chance to become a reality. Father? Do you mean to say these 2 words? At that time, you harmed my mother and left her alone. Now when you think about it, you come out and say that you are our father. Go away, you go away from me. When Chang Qingyi heard the word father, she couldn't help thinking of her mother's hardships over the years. Then she thought of the man who had ruined her mother's life. Now he even wanted to harm her again. She immediately scolded her angrily. Mom is dead now. There are only 2 sisters. You can't see her. Get out of here. Seeing this, Chang Yuechan worries about Chang Qingyi's anger. As soon as she accidentally tells the inside story, she immediately follows her voice. Chang Su is dead. Chen Qiming hears the news and feels lucky. Otherwise, in case of late arrival, Chang Su has been buried. All his previous efforts will be in vain. Yuechan and Qingyi, I know you hate me in your heart, but I really have a hard time to hide. I didn't mean to leave your mother at that time, but after I went back to Zongmen didn't let me leave. I had to. I took your names together with your mother. Don't you even give me the last chance to see her? Chen Qiming forced down his impatience, squeezed out a touch of bitterness and said slowly. Get out of here. But Chang Yuechan and Chang Qingyi have been arranged by Tian to keep Chen Qiming away from the hospital bed. Bang! Chang Yuechan, in particular, copied a stainless steel water cup on her head cupboard and threw it at Chen Qiming. Brush! Chen Qiming saw the water cup coming, raised his hand, grasped it in his hand, and then slowly pressed it into a discus. His face became cold. Looking at Chang Yuechan and Chang Qingyi, he said coldly, 2 evils who don't drink a toast, do you think I'm your father, so I won't take you too? As the words fall, Chen Qiming bullies his body forward and follows him closely. He moves his hand lightly twice, then pulls Chang Yuechan and Chang Qingyi to one side. As soon as he reaches out his other hand, he pulls the quilt off Chang Su's body. Seed. The next second, when he saw Chang Su's eyes closed, he didn't have any pity in his eyes. He didn't even look at them one more time. His right hand suddenly turned into a hawk claw and went straight to Chang Su's dantian position. Qiming, what are you going to do? But just as his hand was in the air, Chang Su's closed eyes suddenly opened. His eyes were full of loss and sadness. He looked at Chen Qiming and asked in a trembling voice. You're not dead? Why aren't you dead yet? When Chen Qiming sees Chang Su suddenly open his eyes, his scalp feels numb. Then he blurts out his words from the bottom of his heart. He can't understand it. According to Chang Yuechan and Chang Qingyi, Chang Su is dead, and according to his judgment, after winning the Yuan seizing array, today is also the day for Chang Su's death. But now, how to see Chang Su has no appearance of dying, and even the middle spirit in his words seems to be enough. Do you want me to die? Hearing the sound, Chang Su's only hope in his eyes was completely dim. After 2 drops of tears trickled down the corner of his eyes,
he looked at Chen Qiming and said word by word. www.novelhall.com, the fastest update of. Why are you still alive? It's impossible. Chen Qiming stares at Chang Su, his face full of disbelief. He thought Chang Su was dead, but now, Chang Su is living well, which can't help but surprise him. If mom really died, she would call you Heart, right? It's a pity that you had a daydream. Chang Yuechan looks at Chen Qiming with a sneer. Chen Qiming's action just now has made her see this man thoroughly. This guy doesn't deserve to be a father for himself and Chang Qingyi, let alone a husband for Chang Su. I'm sorry for Chang Su's obsession with him all these years. No, it's not. You should be dead. Chen Qiming doesn't care about Chang Yuechan at all. He just looks at Chang Su coldly. His face is changeable, and his mind is also very confused. The development of this scene was completely unexpected. If the surgeon does not die, the seed will not take shape. Did you come a step earlier? But according to time, Chang Su should die today. How can she be so full of vitality? Is it difficult for Chang Su to solve the problem? But this array is found in a secret place. Few people know it. Even they have no way to solve it. How can someone help Chang Su Hua solve it? She should have died, but she was lucky enough to meet me. But just then, the door of the ward opened, and Yi Tian came in slowly from the outside. At this moment, in his body, where there is a little tired look, the whole person is in high spirits, and the momentum of his body is more like a sword out of sheath, fierce and unparalleled. Who are you? Chen Qiming looks at Yi Tian in surprise. His eyes are awe-inspiring and he says in a deep voice. The strong momentum of Yi Tian's body makes him tremble at this moment. He even has a feeling that he is like a mole ant in front of Yi Tian. However, Yi Tian's age made him think that he might have thought too much because of his surprise. How can people of this age have such high accomplishments? You, and the people you tie angsons on can't provoke. Yi Tianping smiles quietly. Nonsense! Chen Qiming snorted coldly and then attacked Yi Tian. At the moment of his hand, there was a sharp breath of Jin Yuan on his hands, which made people feel that his fist was like a real shell. Shake the tree. Yi Tian chuckles and raises his hand lightly. He pinches Chen Qiming's fist. Who is this guy? At this age, how can he have such profound cultivation? Chen Qiming tries his best to resist, but no matter how hard he tries, he finds that he can't break away from Yi Tian's palm. Bang! Closely following, Leaf Day hand lightly a shake, his body is uncontrollable then kneel to the ground. This guy is really the one I can't provoke. His strength cultivation is at least the level of heaven. Chen Qiming looks at Yi Tian in panic. At this moment, he is completely sure that what Yi Tian gang said is the truth. Yi Tian is really the person he can't provoke. As long as the other party wants to raise his hand, he can crush him like a small insect. He couldn't understand how Chang Su could have known such a powerful person, but he knew that if he didn't think of something else, he might not have to leave the ward today and give his life to him. Su, please help me, beg for mercy. Let me go. I know I'm wrong. Really, I know I'm wrong. One of the most wrong things I've ever done in my life is that I shouldn't have left you at the beginning, but I swear that as long as you are willing to forgive me, I will be with you for the rest of my life, and I won't go anywhere to make atonement for my previous mistakes. Thinking of this, Chen Qiming immediately kneels down to Chang Su, kowtows to her in praise. Hearing this, Chang Su looks down at Chen Qiming. His eyes are complicated, but in the end, he turns into indifference. If it was in the past, she might have been fooled by Chen Qiming's sweet words, but now, after Chen Qiming started on her and said that, she no longer believes Chen Qiming. She knew that in this man's heart, there was no love at all, only himself. Chen Qiming, don't be paranoid anymore. My mother won't listen to you anymore. Chen Yuechan looks at Chen Qiming coldly and scolds coldly. Yuechan is right. You and I have nothing to do with each other. Your life and my life and death have nothing to do with each other. Hearing this, Chang Su looks down at Chen Qiming and calms down. As she spoke, she felt cramps in her heart, but when she said that, she felt that the whole person became relaxed, just like a big stone that had been pressing on her chest, suddenly cracked, no more burden. You. When Chen Qiming heard Chang Su's words, his face sank. Suddenly, a fierce light came over his eyes. As soon as he bit his teeth, he immediately made a decision. He jumped up, raised his hand, and grabbed Chang Su's neck on the bed. He planned to hold Chang Su and threaten Yi Tian to let himself live. Dying, is it useful? But before his hand touched Chang Su, he felt a strong force on his back, which made him fall to the ground without any resistance. Bang! The next second, a foot as fast like lightning, point in his elixir. In an instant, his elixir gas sea suddenly burst open, a painstaking attainments for cultivation, all empty. You dare to abolish my cultivation, Tian Xinzong won't let you go. Chen Qiming perceives the disappearing cultivation like flowing water and looks at Yi Tian. His facial features are twisted and ferocious, and his voice is hoarse. You are not the first one in Tian Xinzong to threaten me. But if they really want to do me a disservice because of you, they are stupid. Yi Tian sniffs at Chen Qiming and laughs. Then he turns to Chang Su and says, his accomplishments have been abandoned by me. Now he is an ordinary man. His life and death are up to you. It's over. Hearing this, Chen Qiming shuddered and felt as if he had seen the end of his life. After all, she abandoned Chang Su at first, and now she's been so cruel to her. How could she let her go? I can spare you from dying. Chang Su stares at Chen Qiming for a long time and then says slowly, Su. Hearing this, Chen Qiming's body trembled and his face immediately showed a look of ecstasy. Don't call me that. I'm sick. Chang Su looked at Chen Qiming in disgust and said, I can spare you, but you have to answer my 2 questions. The first question is, why did you leave me? Second, why are you doing this to me this time? I want to hear the truth. You don't want to live, say some meaningless words to disgust me. In that case, I won't forgive you. These 2 questions are Chang Su's biggest doubts. She asked herself that she was deeply attached to Chen Qiming at the beginning. Even if Chen Qiming's heart was made of iron, she couldn't be indifferent. This time, she couldn't understand how Chen Qiming could count on her. Chen Qiming was just about to say some nice words to fool him, but he saw Chang Su's cold eyes, gritted his teeth and said, I did like you in those years, but I prefer to become stronger and more want to be the patriarch than I like you. When I went back to the clan, I was going to tell the school to take you back, but the 3 elders were willing to let my granddaughter marry me, which would be very helpful for me to become the leader of the clan, so I agreed. As for this time, it's because the 3 elders' life is not long. He once promised me that he would help me go to Qingming sect and ask for a heavenly elixir, so I will continue show you in for him and let him live. Although there are many people at the foot of the mountain, you are the only one I am familiar with, so... Although Chen Qiming didn't finish what he said, it was obvious that he chose Chang Su because he knew that other people were wary of him and it was inconvenient for him to start. Horizontally and vertically, he has hurt Chang Su once, so he thinks that even if he hurts this stupid woman again, it's nothing. You shameless! Damn it! Chang Yuechan listens to Chen Qiming's words. Her face is covered with frost. She grits her teeth and says coldly that her eyes are killing. She wants to have Chen Qiming skinned and cramped. When she was very young, she once hated her mother and felt that she had abandoned herself, so she let herself live a hard life. But until now, she found out that Chang Su had lived much harder than she did. Because, at least, she was not used and betrayed by her beloved, but Chang Su was used and betrayed by her beloved. Su, I've already said that. Please spare my life. Ignoring Chang Yuechan's rebuke, Chen Qiming kneels in front of Chang Su with a flattering expression. At this moment, there is no difference between him and a pug. Excuse me? Are you dreaming that you have done so much harm to my mother and made him suffer so much? Chang Qingyi also angry, pointing to Chen Qiming, cold way. Qingyi, Yuechan. But at this time, Chang Su suddenly shook his head to Chang Yuechan and Chang Qingyi, then turned his head, looked at Yi Tian, and said slowly, Dr. Yi, please hold your hand high and save his life. Ma! Chang Qingyi and Chang Yuechan look at Chang Su in amazement. They can't believe that Chen Qiming has done so much harm to her. She even wants to keep Chen Qiming alive. Are you sure? Yi Tianping gives Chang Su a quiet look and says slowly. I'm sure. Chang Su nodded. As you wish. Yi Tian nodded slightly, then turned to look at Chen Shiming and said faintly, "You can roll." Chen Shiming looks at Yi Tian in horror and turns around to leave. "Have you forgotten something? She'll spare your life, and you're going to leave in silence?" Seeing this, Yi Tian sweeps his eyes at Chen Shiming. I'm sorry, I'm wrong." Hearing this, Chen Shiming shudders. After apologizing to Yi Tian, he turns around and kneels in front of Chang Su. He kowtows to her respectfully and says, "Thank you for sparing my life." Chang Su closed his eyes and said nothing. Seeing this, Chen Shiming timidly turns his head and looks at Yi Tian. When he sees Yi Tian nodding, he hurriedly stumbles to the door of the ward. It's no different from a lost dog. "Mom, why did you spare this shameless man?" Cheng Qing angrily looks at Chen Shiming after leaving, looking at Chang Su, unwilling. "If we kill him, our family will bear the identity of a murderer. I don't want to cast a shadow on our family's life because of such an insignificant person." Hearing this, Chang Su spoke out his thoughts. Cheng Qingyi opened her mouth and couldn't say a word. Killing Chen Shiming is really a relief. But what should we do after killing him? Are they not murderers? Qingyi, respect Mom's opinion. At this time, Chang Yuechan shook her head to Cheng Qingyi, motioned to Cheng Qingyi not to ask so many questions, and said, "I'll go to the bathroom." "I'll go too." Leaf Day smell speech, smile, followed Cheng Yuechan out of the ward. Can I be willful once and make a mandala at last? After walking out of the ward, Cheng Yuechan looks at Yi Tian and prays slowly. She once promised Yi Tian that she would not go back to the old days. But now, she really can't tolerate such shameless people as Chen Shiming, and she can still live in the world. What's more, it was Chen Shiming who led her to have no mother for 21 years. She was cruelly trained every day and regarded human life as a kind of life. I hope you can start a new life, but when did I say that when you meet a villain or someone who hurts you, you have to bear with it? And what do you think I'm saving his life for? Yi Tian smiles and looks at Cheng Yuechan. Then he takes out the bottle of acid from the storage ring, hands it to Cheng Yuechan, and says, "Go ahead, just one drop, you can make everything disappear. But remember, be careful, don't use your mind. It's not worth destroying your life when you come back, bring some supper. Don't let them worry about it." As Yi Tian said, he never wanted to let Chen Shiming go, but it's better to do revenge by himself than by others. So he left Chen Shiming's life and gave it to Cheng Yuechan. Cheng Yuechan reaches out to take the acid. Her eyes are hot and humid, and her nose is sour. After rubbing her eyes and nose, she nods to Yi Tian, and then walks quickly to the elevator. She may be very unfortunate, so she can't meet her mother for 21 years, but she is also lucky compared with most of the killers in prison, because she met Yi Tian. From then on, fate will be different. When Yi Tian returns to the ward, he tells Cheng Su and Cheng Qingyi that Yuechan will go downstairs to buy supper. Maybe she won't come back for a while. Cheng Su and Cheng Qingyi naturally have no doubt about him, so they are waiting quietly in the ward. About half an hour later, Cheng Yuechan went back to the ward with 2 steamed dumplings, chopsticks and dipping materials in her hand. When she handed the steamed stuffed bun to Yi Tian, she gave the acid back to Yi Tian. With Dante's accurate instinct of weighing drugs, Yi Tian accurately perceives that Cheng Yuechan gave him acid, half less than when he gave it. This is the weight of a drop of very high-density citric acid. What disappeared from the world is not only this drop of acid, but also a guy named Chen Shiming. If there is anything else, contact me, or go to the Qin family to find me. I'll go first. Yi Tian accompanies the mother and daughter to finish eating steamed stuffed buns. He gets up and looks at Cheng Yuechan and says. At this moment, he suddenly thought of Ning Yao. After his parents left, there was only one family member left in the world, Ning Yao. Okay, I'll see you off. Cheng Yuechan nodded, and then walked to the door with Yi Tian. Thank you, for me, for my mother and Qingyi. After walking out of the hospital gate, Cheng Yuechan looks at Yi Tian and says sincerely. You're welcome. We're friends. Yi Tian smiles and shakes his head. He helps Cheng Yuechan, but he doesn't think so much. It's just that in this world, there are not many people he cares about, but Cheng Yuechan is just one of them. Yes, we are friends. Chang Yuechan heard the word friend, her cheek trembled slightly and twitched for a moment, her mouth showed a smile, but her eyes were slightly sad. It turned out that he was just a friend in his eyes.
Well, you go back and spend more time with them.
I'll go first.
Yi Tian didn't find the difference of Chang Yuechan's fundus.
After waving his hand with a smile, he said.
Chang Yuechan nodded, then turned and walked toward the hospital. Don't frown. Be happy. Your name now sounds more pleasant than Mandala. At least, it's no longer poison. Yi Tian sees Mandala's look as if she is sentimental.
He thinks that she is sentimental about killing Chen Shiming, so he laughs and comforts.
Yes, I have my own name.
Hearing the speech, Chang Yuechan turns her head and smiles at Yi Tian. She and the bright moon in the sky complement each other.
The smile is so beautiful.
Such a smile was never seen on her face when she was a Mandala in the past. There is one less Chen Shiming in the world, but there is one more girl with a name and a surname, a mother, a sister, and so on.
Her name is Chang Yuechan.
After seeing Chang Yuechan walk into the hospital building, Yi Tian glances around, and then walks into a small secluded courtyard where no one is paying attention. After that, he releases his mind and flies to the direction of the Qin family manor. A moment later, the flying sword hovers over the manor.
Yi Tian glances over and sees that the light on the second floor is still on.
Qin Luotian is lying on the balcony, staring at the bright moon overhead. Seeing this, Yi Tian presses the flying sword and falls on the balcony. Then he looks at Qin Luotian and smiles. This picture is like a lover who has been away from home for a long time. When he returns home quietly, he looks at the girl who is thinking of you for a long time, but he doesn't know what to say.
In the end, 1,000 words turn into the most common but the most unusual one: I'm back. Ah, you're back.
Qin Luotian heard Yi Tian's words, his eyes could not help but stagnate. He looked at Yi Tian in amazement, and his eyes flashed a touch of joy that was hard to hide. When she used to read a book, she once heard a saying that one day's absence is like 3 autumns. At that time, she thought this was really funny. Even if the relationship is more intimate, how can there be such an amazing degree of mutual dependence? But it was not until this time that Yi Tian left Jiangnan City and went to Meilin that she found that when she missed someone, she really had the feeling of living like years. Moreover, she found that she didn't know when she had been used to the life with Yi Tian at her side. When he wasn't there, she felt empty in her heart, as if she had lost a lot of things, and her life had lost its color and became lifeless. At this moment, Yi Tian suddenly appeared in front of her, making her feel that the world in front of her suddenly became vivid and colorful. Well. Yi Tian nodded with a smile, stood quietly beside Qin Luogod, looked up at the sky, and said, "The moonlight tonight is really beautiful." Qin Luotian nodded casually, but just a few times, she suddenly remembered something she had ignored because she was too happy to see Yi Tian. She turned her head, looked at Yi Tian, and said, It just flew back."
Ha ha, yes. Yi Tian hears the sound and nods with a smile.
He just said that Qin Luotian was too insipid about his sword flying back. Unexpectedly, it turned out that Qin Luotian's reflection arc was relatively long, and he didn't react until now.
How could that be?
Qin Luogod looked at Yi Tian, his face full of wonder. She knew that Yi Tian had great ability and strength, but she never thought that Yi Tian could fly like people in movies and novels.
Don't people who have this kind of means already become immortals?
If you're not afraid of heights, I can take you around the sky and feel it. Yi Tian looks at Qin Luotian's appearance and smiles.
Can you take me with you?
Qin Luotian was stunned when he heard the speech.
He looked at Yi Tian in amazement.
He couldn't believe it, but his heart was full of hope.
No matter who it is, as long as you see the flying sword, how can you not be moved?
Of course. Yi Tian nods with a smile, and his mind moves. The fierce sword suddenly unfolds. After jumping up, he hands out a hand to Qin Luogod standing on the ground.
Qin Luotian looks at Yi Tian's action and hesitates for a moment.
Beiqi nibbles his lower lip and shyly passes his slender jade hand to Yi Tian's palm. After he holds him, he stands on tiptoe and then jumps onto the flying sword. Originally, she thought that the flying sword should be the same as a boat floating in the water. When she jumped on it, she would feel unstable at her feet and shaking. But after jumping on the flying sword, Qin Luoshan found that the flying sword was surprisingly stable. When she stepped on it, she had a down-to-earth feeling. When she tentatively shook her body, she found that the flying sword did not change at all, which even made her feel that even if she jumped on it for a few times, it would not be any different. You are in front, so the scenery is better, and I can hold your waist, so it's safer. When Yi Tian saw this, he was amused. Then he let Qin Luoshan stand in front of him, and he was behind her. His two hands gently supported her slender waist. The palm heat coming from her waist makes Qin Luoshan's face blush. Fortunately, she is standing in front of Yi Tian now. Even if her face is different, Yi Tian can't find anything. Ready to go. Just when Qin Luo was red in the face, Yi Tian's voice came from behind Qin Luo. She felt that the flying sword she was stepping on had a huge momentum. Immediately, she found that she had left the balcony and was shuttling towards the sky. Ah! The speed made Qin Luoshan feel extremely nervous and shy. He held Yi Tian's hands tightly behind him for fear that he would fall from the flying sword and scream like a roller coaster. Yi Tian laughs. The expression of the person who flies the sword for the first time seems to be different from that of Qin Luo, but he will adapt soon. Sure enough, when Yi Tian hovered over the Qin manor for a few circles, Qin Luogod's mood gradually calmed down. He felt embarrassed and released Yi Tian's hand. Then he carefully looked at the lights at his feet, and then looked at the clouds and the moon overhead. For a moment, he felt like he had become a fairy and was overlooking the world of mortals. Yi Tian, can you fly higher? I want to see the clouds see. Soon, Qin Luoshan, who was in a calm mood, felt that he could not be satisfied with such a height. He took the initiative to put forward the idea to Yi Tian, hoping to go to a higher place to have a look. No problem. Yi Tian chuckles. His mana runs and urges the flying sword to rush towards the sea of clouds above. In the blink of an eye, they came to the clouds. Heaven and earth, at this moment, all become quiet. When you look around, you can only see the boundless clouds, the bright moon with silver moonlight on your head, and the vast starry sky with countless flashes, which gives you a sense of mystery. Although Qin Luoshan has made countless flights and visited countless so-called beautiful scenery all over the world, at this moment, she felt that any kind of beautiful scenery she had seen in the past could not be compared with the scene in front of her. Moreover, she can be sure that she is the only one in the world who can enjoy such a quiet and beautiful scenery, except Yi Tian. In other words, this is a unique beauty that belongs to her and Yi Tian. It's beautiful. Qin Luoshan quietly looked at the silent but beautiful world in front of him, murmured, and then involuntarily opened his arms to feel the faint sky wind brought by the flying sword. Yi Tian holds Qin Luoshan's slender waist and quietly looks at everything in front of him. In the past, when they were in the square-inch spiritual realm, sometimes, they would fight with a flying sword together, come to the clouds, watch the stars and clouds, say nothing, and do nothing, and then they could spend the whole night quietly. I don't know how long it took for Qin Luo to finally wake up from the beautiful scenery that made his soul purify to a certain extent. When he thought about the actions of himself and Yi Tian, Xiao Jia couldn't help floating a blush. This scene is so similar to the classic scene of You Jump, I Jump in Titanic, in which Jack and Ruth fall in love. But then, a touch of depression appeared in her eyes. Although the love between Jack and Ruth is moving, it ends in a tragedy. And between her and Yi Tian, she knows that she has fallen in love with Yi Tian, but she also knows that what Yi Tian likes, from beginning to end, is the Ning Yao in her soul, not her Qin Luo god. The same scene, the final result, I am afraid, is the same tragedy. Such a state of mind even made her feel that the only beautiful scenery in the world seemed to have been eclipsed. I've already felt what the imperial sword is like. Let's go down. Thinking of this, Qin Luoshan turns his head and looks at Yi Tian. His eyes dodge and he whispers. Since this is a relationship doomed to no result, the more you experience now, the more painful it will be when you think about it in the future. So fast? Yi Tian looks at Qin Luoshan in surprise. He thought that Qin Luoshan would like to see more for a while, but he didn't expect that Qin Luoshan would choose to fall down so soon. Good. Although he didn't understand what happened, Yi Tian felt that Qin Luo's emotion was dripping, so he nodded and turned back to the balcony. Yi Tian, I want to ask you a question. After standing on the ground, Qin Luoshan looked at Yi Tian in front of him. His eyes changed for a long time and said slowly, "If Ning Yao and I don't look like each other at all, or if I have nothing to do with Ning Yao, would you like me? Would you like me?" Yi Tian looked at Qin Luogod in amazement, and didn't know what to say for a moment. He did not expect that Qin Luoshan would ask himself this question, and he never considered these possibilities. In his heart, Ning Yao was the only one. Take tonight to fly with Qin Luogod's imperial sword to see the stars. He is just because of Ning Yao. But now, he suddenly realized that he had ignored a problem, no matter whether Ning Yao and Qin Luogod are one, but now, Qin Luogod or Qin Luogod with his own thoughts. Forget it, you don't have to answer. I'm very happy tonight. Thank you. At this time, Qin Luoshan suddenly looks at Yi Tian, smiles politely, and then turns to his room. Yi Tian looks at Qin Luo's back, shakes his head with a bitter smile, and then goes to his room. He asked himself, whether it is the god of Qin Luo tonight or Ning Shui who has confided in himself, if he doesn't like them in his heart, he is deceiving himself. As long as he is a normal man, he will like these kind and beautiful girls. But more importantly, Ning Yao walked into his heart. It's very common for a monk to have several Taoist companions in Feng and spiritual realm, but from the beginning to the end, no matter his accomplishments were low or he became Emperor Dan, Ning Yao was the only one. Before Ning Yao came back to him, he didn't want to pay attention to these things. One night without words, soon to the next morning. After getting up, Yi Tian sees Li Dezhuang and Fang Zhong and takes out the lingbing he made in Mo's family and gives them one by one. With lingbing in hand, Li Dezhuang and Fang Zhong's eyes and eyebrows were filled with ecstatic smiles. Lingbing is a treasure that can greatly enhance the fighting power of the mountain people. But even the Taoists of 3 sects and 6 sects can't have it. For some small sects, it's a treasure that only the patriarchs of each generation are qualified to inherit, but now, the 2 of them are spirit soldiers. This scene makes them even more grateful for the correctness of their previous choice to follow Yi Tian. Otherwise, in this life, how can they have the chance to practice such profound secret skills, and how can they have their own spirit soldiers? In a few days, a man named Jiang Ming will come to protect Miss Qin with you. You can help me to investigate him. If you think he is a reliable person, you can pass on my mental skill to him as well as this lingbing long knife to him. Yi Tian looks at the happy appearance of these 2 goods. After laughing, he hands Li Dezhuang the lingbing sword and says in a deep voice. Last time in that valley, Yi Tian saw that Jiang Ming's tiger mouth had calluses, and there were some fine marks on his left index finger. It was obvious that he often used the blade. After sharpening, he used his finger belly to test the sharpness of the blade. Yes, I'll make a good investigation of the guy named Jiang Ming, and make sure he doesn't care about you. Then I'll give him these. When Li Dezhuang heard the speech, he took the lingbing sword with both hands respectfully and nodded solemnly. Yi Tian nodded with a smile. He can still trust Li Dezhuang's loyalty and insight. Haven't you heard from King Mingzong recently? Next, Yi Tian looks at Li Dezhuang and asks. No, but I have asked my friends to inquire. If there is any news that King Mingzong sent people to Jiangnan, they will contact me as soon as possible. Li Dezhuang shook his head in a hurry and said. Ding-ling! Almost at the moment when Li Dezhuang's voice fell, the mobile phone in his pocket suddenly rang. He felt out the mobile phone and connected it. When he heard the voice over there, he was stunned and said, "How can it be? Are you sure it's not a rumor?" Okay, I see. Thank you very much. A moment later, Li Dezhuang said sincerely, then hung up the phone, and then looked at Yi Tian strangely. What happened? Yi Tian looks at Li Dezhuang. He doesn't understand why he looks so strange. Great things happened to Qingming's sect. The leader Lu Bufan explored the secret place. When he went back to the mountain, his cultivation was abandoned. Now Qingming's sect is in a mess. He is electing a new leader to carry on the transition. All forces are surging in secret, and the swords are raging. Li Dezhuang respectfully salutes Yi Tian and tells the whole story. What? How can it be? Fang Zhong hears the sound and looks at Li Dezhuang in disbelief. His eyes are almost staring out of his eyes. Lu Bufan was abandoned. Not only Fang Zhong, but also Yi Tian's eyes changed when he heard Li Dezhuang's words. He finally understood why Li Dezhuan was so surprised. The reason is very simple, because Lu Bufan is not only the leader of Qingming's sect, but also the first one among the mountain people. In the eyes of all the mountain people, Lu Bufan is extremely powerful and unmatched. But at the moment, such a character's cultivation is abandoned. How can we not be shocked? It's true. Now the 3 sects and 6 sects have gone crazy. There is a turbulent undercurrent in Qingming's sect, and the rest of them are staring at Qingming's sect to see if they can take advantage of it. Li Dezhuan nodded solemnly and said sincerely. Yi Tian nodded slightly and his eyes changed. Unfortunately, his strength is still weak now. Otherwise, this is a good chance to wade in muddy water. However, after such a thing happened, there is no doubt that King Mingzong is now in such a situation. Everyone is staring at the position of the patriarch, especially Li Muran, the first son of King Mingzong, who is on the cusp of the storm and has absolutely no time to pay attention to the affairs of the Qin family. In this way, the Qin family could spend a quiet time, and he could leave Jiangnan and return to Nanhai. I still can't believe it. I'll ask. Fang Zhongling for a long time, finally shook his head, took out his mobile phone, and began to call some of his mountain people to inquire about the situation. It has been many years since Lu Bufan took over the title of the first person on the mountain. Countless people on the mountain have been used to him standing on the top of the mountain, and it is generally acknowledged that he has the best chance to break through to the next level after the top of the mountain. Now, Li Dezhuang suddenly said that Lu Bufan's cultivation had been abolished. It's really unbelievable. Really, Lu Bufan's accomplishments were abandoned and his life was in danger. After several phone calls, Fang Zhong slowly put down his mobile phone and murmured with trembling face. Lu Bufan's accomplishments have been abandoned and his life is in danger. This event will cause a shock comparable to a top earthquake among the mountain people. I'm afraid that the remaining 2 schools of 5 schools will be involved, and countless mountain people will be affected. What's the matter? What do you think of this expression? But at this time, Qin Laozi and Qin Luoshan came over. When they saw their expressions, Qin Laozi asked with doubts. Old man, you Qin family are lucky. There is a big event in Qingming's sect. You can get through this crisis. When Li Dezhuang heard this, he congratulated Mr. Qin with a smile. During this period of contact, he found that whether it was Qin Laozi or Qin Luoshan, they were actually very kind people. Although Yi Tian ordered them to protect them, they never treated them as bodyguards. Not only that, this is not only reflected in the 2 of them, Qin Laozi and Qin Luoshan are also very kind to the rest of the Qin family. They really don't want such kind-hearted people to suffer miserably. But fortunately, the disaster can finally pass. Who? Hearing this, the Qin master breathed a long sigh of relief, patted his chest, then looked at Yi Tian and said sincerely, Yi Tian, thank you. If it wasn't for you, the Qin family would not have survived this disaster. It's not only the master of Qin, but also the god of Qin Luo. Although Yi Tian had helped before, she always felt that her chest was like a heavy stone before things were solved. This is the fortune of the Qin family, and it's also the old man. You are lucky and have your own way. It has nothing to do with me. Yi Tian smiles and shakes his head. He smiles and compliments Master Qin. Are you going back to the South China Sea? But just at this time, Qin Luo God, who had just breathed a sigh of relief, suddenly remembered something and looked at Yi Tian nervously. Yes, I'll go back to Nanhai when things are settled here. Yi Tian feels the tension in Qin Luo's words, but he nods and tells the truth. No matter what, he is a student now. Even if he doesn't go to class, it won't matter, but he can't leave the campus for too long. Not only that, the mirage is about to open, he must also be prepared in the South China Sea. This is a rare opportunity, he cannot miss. Well. Before you leave, tell me, I'll send you. Although Qin Luoshan had guessed that it would be the answer, he nodded his head after giving the answer from Yi Tian himself. Although she did not give up, she also knew that she had just taken over the position of the head of the Qin family from Master Qin, and she could not leave Jiangnan for Nanhai. Of course, there is another reason, that is, she knows that Yi Tian has Ning Yao in his heart. Even if Yi Tian stayed in the south of the Yangtze River, he couldn't change it. Now, I'd like to broadcast a piece of news about the medical industry. Shueji ointment, which had been sold very well in the market before, had extremely serious quality problems and caused disfigurement of 3 users. According to our information, the manufacturer of Shueji cream was just a pharmaceutical factory in Nanhai before. This is the first product they independently developed. A professor from Beijing Medical University of Taiwan Online said that most scar-removing products sold on the market are exaggerated. Consumers should polish their eyes and be careful before buying and using them. We should never choose inferior products produced by small and miscellaneous factories. But at this time, along the TV in the living room, suddenly came the serious voice of the hostess, followed by 3 faces on the TV screen, even covered with white gauze, but still with blood. This picture, even across the screen, is shocking. How can Shueji ointment have such a big problem? Tian looks at these 3 faces wrapped in white bandages, and his eyes are full of color. But soon he shook his head and gave up the idea. He has carefully studied the formula of Shueji ointment. Every drug he chooses is a kind of medicine that will not make people allergic. It is impossible to cause the problem of disfigurement instead of removing scars. Is it difficult? Is there a problem in the quality control of Ning's pharmaceutical industry? What has been added? Immediately after that, Tian has another doubt in his heart. But the next second, he gave up the idea. No matter Ning Shui or Ning Zhongshan, they are not the kind of people who will sell inferior medicines as good ones and cheat consumers with fake and inferior medicines. They are extremely strict in the quality control of medicines and are unlikely to make such a big mistake. Well, the only explanation is that now someone is in the whole snow cream and Ningjia. Now these people are really black-hearted. The disfigurement medicine should be sold as scar-removing medicine. This kind of unscrupulous factory should cut off their heads and kill a few of them to make an example. I'll see if anyone dares to do such a thing in the future. At this time, Li Dazhuang heard the news. He shook his head and said contemptuously. Fang Zhongwen immediately nodded his head, then looked at Tian and said, "Master, you are from the South China Sea. Have you ever heard of Ning's pharmaceutical industry before? I developed this cream." The Leaf Day hears speech, slowly Wei. As soon as Li Dazhuang heard this, his face immediately became embarrassed. Fang Zhong's face also became very strange. He opened his mouth, but he didn't know what to say for a moment. There must be no problem with the medicine developed by the elder. If I say it, someone must be jealous and deliberately set up the elder. A moment later, Li Dazhuang scratched his head and looked at Tian with a shy smile. He changed his tongue in a hurry. I have to go back to Nanhai as soon as possible, whether it's planted intentionally or if there's something wrong with quality control. Tian waved his hand, turned his head and looked at Qin Luogod, and said in a deep voice. Li Dazhuang and Fang Zhong's words just sounded the alarm for him. Because of the toxic milk powder and waste oil incidents in the past years, Chinese people hate fake and shoddy products to a very high degree. Even the detached mountain people like Li Dazhuang and Fang Zhong have said such murderous words after hearing this news. It can be imagined how angry those ordinary people should be when they heard this. If this problem is not handled properly, no matter how good the effect of Shueji cream is, and whether someone is deliberately setting it up or not, the basin of sewage from Shueji cream will not be washed away. Therefore, he should return to Nanhai as soon as possible to settle the crisis. Okay, I'll see you off. Qin Luogod heard the words, sighed, and then directed at Tian. She is also a business person. She knows how much influence such negative news has on an enterprise. If she can't deal with it properly, she will try her best to turn it into a bubble. She has to be ruined and nailed to the pillar of shame. So now she can't help but let Tian leave. Take care of yourself, old man. I'll see you later. Hearing this, Tian arched his fist at the Master Qin, and then followed Qin Luoshan to the door. Master Yi, you can rest assured that Fang Zhong and I will protect Miss Qin and Master Qin from any accidents. After getting on the bus, Li Dazhuang said respectfully to Tian. Tian nodded, took out the mobile phone, a phone call to Ning Shui. How are you doing there? As soon as the phone rings, Ning Shui gets through, and Tian asks. You already know about snow cream? I'm sorry. Rather snow smell speech, voiced some low way. Yi Tian gives her the formula of Shueji cream to help Ning family through the crisis, but she fails to live up to Yi Tian's trust, which leads to such a big problem of Shueji cream. How can she not feel ashamed of Yi Tian?
Don't say anything. I'm sorry.
Please tell me about it in detail.
Yi Tian chuckles and says to Ning Shui. I just saw the news about the problem of Shueji cream. Before, the sales volume was very high and the reputation was very good. But just now, there was a rumor about disfigurement, and it was all over the internet and TV. Yi Tian, I promise that my grandfather and I will keep a close eye on the factory side. We will never have any problems. I don't know what happened this time.
Ning Shui apologetically told the cause and effect of the matter. It happened suddenly, and without any fermentation, it directly triggered a storm of public opinion. Yi Tian hears the sound, frowns slightly, and immediately discovers something unusual.
You know, such as this kind of medical accident, basically will go through a fermentation period, things will make a big deal, it is impossible to say, things just happen, directly make a stir, everyone knows, although Shueji ointment fire, but not to this extent. Unless someone has been ready for a long time to set off every link of the public opinion storm, only in this way can the negative news, as soon as it occurs, immediately make all media start to attack each other and cause an uproar. Not only that, at the moment in Yi Tian's heart, but also to the backstage man, there is an inference. Don't worry, I'm going back to Nanhai now. Don't make any response before I go back.
Also, you have to believe that as long as there is no problem with Shueji cream, no one will be afraid to pour dirty water on it.
Thinking of this, Yi Tian tells Ning Shui, and then hangs up. I don't think it's that simple. It should be that someone is playing tricks on purpose. Otherwise, it will not be disfigured. As soon as it happens, it will cause such a huge storm.
Qin Luoshan saw Yi Tian hang up the phone, then looked at Yi Tian and said his guess.
I feel the same way. Yi Tian nodded with a smile and agreed with Qin Luoshan's statement.
After that, his eyes showed a touch of essence and he said with a smile, however, they chose to pour dirty water on me.
That's a big mistake.
I'll let him understand what it's like to have blue intestines. Li Dashuan listens to Yi Tian's murderous words, and he mourns for the guy who provokes Yi Tian.
That guy, it's not good to offend anyone.
It's just that he offended Master Yi.
It's not the old man's arsenic. He thinks he has a long life.
Half an hour later, the car arrived at the airport and the private plane was ready to take off. Call me if you need to, and I'll give you my full cooperation. Qin Luogod will Yi Tian into the airport, looking at him, solemnly.
Good. Yi Tian looked at Qin Luoshan and nodded with a smile.
But having said that, he has no habit of asking women to help. Moreover, if he even put up such a small disturbance, he would be ashamed of his former name of Emperor Dan. 10 minutes later, the plane set sail and headed for the South China Sea.
3.5 hours later, the plane landed at Nanhai Airport.
After leaving the plane, Yi Tian directly stopped a car and went straight to Ning's home. However, as soon as he got to the door of Ning's house, he saw that the door of Ning's house was full of interview cars at the moment. A reporter with a long gun and a short gun was pointing the camera at the door of Ning's house, shooting madly from various angles.
Old fellow, this is the home of Ningxin's black heart drug maker. I hate this black heart garbage 3 of my family.
Today, we admire their family's egg and help them to solve their problems. If the old fellow feel the gas, give me a few rockets to play. Not only that, but also many people who are engaged in live broadcasting are holding up their selfie sticks, taking the Ning family as the background wall, shouting. Especially one of them, Cheng Sainer, is carrying a bag of rotten eggs and throwing them at the door of the Ning family. Blink of an eye, the ground will be covered with the stench of the egg liquid, with the wind blowing, straight let people about of nausea. Journalists, we media and internet celebrities are all here.
If there is no organization behind the scenes, who the hell will believe it?
When Yi Tian saw this, a sneer rose from the corner of his mouth. Seeing that there was no way to enter Ning's house at the front door, he bypassed the crowd, found a quiet courtyard wall, jumped into the courtyard.
Yi Tian, you come back so fast.
At this time, Ning Shui just walked to the courtyard wall. When she saw that the person who jumped down from the courtyard wall was Yi Tianho, her face covered with sad clouds immediately rippled with a touch of sunshine and was pleasantly surprised. I came back by my friend's private plane, so I came back a little faster. Tian toward rather snow smile, then Shin toward the door a pic. Wait, outside those people, how long? Just after the news came out, I had planned to go to the hospital to see the injured, but they had already arrived before I went out. Later, I received your call and didn't go out again. Rather snow smell speech, answer away in a hurry. Sure enough. Tian heard the speech and sneered twice. At this moment, the truth has become more and more clear. All this is that someone is deliberately planning behind his back. Otherwise, how could the guy blocking Ning's door in western Zhejiang move so quickly? You give me snow cream, but I'm so sorry. I betrayed your trust. Ning Shui looks at Tian apologetically. Lo Wei. No wonder you. Tian waved his hand at will, indicating that Ning Shui should not be cranky. Ding ling ling at this time, Ning Shui's mobile phone suddenly rings. Ning Shui takes up her mobile phone and looks at it. Seeing that it's a strange number, she is ready to hang up. Connect, listen to him. Leaf Day C shape, hurried to rather snow road. Ning Shui hears speech, this just pressed answer key and hands-free key, put mobile phone next oneself body and leaf day in the middle. Miss Ning, how does this disfigurement storm feel? The person on the opposite side of the phone is very alert. When he speaks, he changes the voice line with a voice changer, but even so, his voice is full of pride. You did these things? What do you want to do? Rather snow smell speech, immediately to the man over the phone, cold way. I don't know what I want to do. Miss Ning Xiao, don't you know? Hearing Ning Shui's words, the man on the other side of the phone immediately laughed wildly, and then said, Miss Ning, I think you should be very clear that the scandal of disfigurement in the cosmetics industry will have a great impact on the products, right? After this event, from now on, as long as you mention Shueji cream, the first thing you think of is that it once caused disfigurement. When that happens, do you think someone will continue to buy your product? Don't cover up anymore. There's no big reason to say that. Go ahead. What do you want? Tian hears the sound and winks at Ning Shui, indicating that she continues to ask. My idea is very simple. You release the news to the media, saying that there is indeed a problem with Shueji cream and it needs to be recalled and stopped selling, and then give me this secret recipe. Believe me, I will not only help you with this, but also give you a lot of money, a lot of money. The man on the other side of the phone sneered twice, then said in a cold-blooded voice, listen to me, think about it, choose to cooperate with me, it's your best choice now. Who are you? Ning Shui listens to each other's aggressive voice, word by word, coldly. Why, do you want to know who I am and then tell others that I arranged and ordered all this? Miss Ning, do you think I will be as stupid as you think? The man on the other side of the phone sneered and then said in an almost cold-blooded tone, I'll give you 2 hours to think about it. If you can't give me a reply later, I'm sorry, you'll be finished. Ning Shui hears the sound, the face turns blue, 5 fingers tightly pinch, chest ups and downs, want to denounce each other a few words. In 2 hours, are you so anxious to get the recipe of Shueji cream? The leaf day hurdles rather snow to put to wave a hand, once took a cell phone, to the man over the phone, light way. You are Mr. Tian who developed Shueji cream, right? Hearing Tian's voice, the man on the other side of the phone was obviously stunned. Then he broke Tian's identity and said with a smile, the effect of Shueji cream is so good, and the market is so good. Why don't I want it? Tian, I advise you to sell Shueji cream. It's your best choice. The more you struggle, the worse you die. The words of the man on the other side of the phone, say without fear, seemed to eat Tian and Ning Shui. Oh, then I'll think it over. Tian light smile, and then on the phone side, smile, however, don't worry about hanging up, I want to ask you a question, you don't worry, and snow cream things. If you have any questions, just ask. I'm in a good mood today. Maybe I'll answer you. The man on the other side of the phone is not impatient at all, and his tone is a kind of cat and mouse banter. Excuse me, were you sold and adopted? Tian smell speech, indifferent smile, a word a meal slowly way. What do you mean by that? Obviously, the man on the other side of the phone didn't expect that Tian would ask such a strange question, but he also felt that Tian and the question didn't mean well, and his tone suddenly became cold, sharp and cold.
I don't understand. Your IQ doesn't sound very high.
But no wonder you don't choose to fight me if you have a little brain. Tian light smile, the phone side of the man angry half dead, then said, since you don't understand, then I explain to you again, just like you forced us to sell snow cream formula, your mother is not after you were born, sold to other people?
What's the connection between the two? The voice of the man on the other side of the phone became colder and colder. As like as two peas, of course, they are related.
Tian chuckled and said, Shueji cream is developed by me, which is equivalent to my child.
If you ask me to sell the formula of Shueji cream, you are asking me to sell my own children.
You are so familiar with this kind of thing, so I have to doubt that you have experienced it yourself.
So it seems that you have made your own choice and intend to fight with me to the end.
After a long silence, the man on the other side of the phone suddenly sneered and said slowly, in this case, don't blame me for being impolite. You can wait to become a street mouse and beg me to sell me the formula of snow cream.